Chapter 177. Isn't he relying on the protection of his clan? Otherwise, why would they give him face? Yi Feng's clothes were covered in filthy vomit, and he was in an extremely sorry state. However, he still refused to admit it even at this moment, and his gaze was filled with disdain. He was very unwilling to submit to Jiang Tian. He'd been an orphan since he was young, and he only acknowledged his master and didn't know his parents. Moreover, he hated disciples of reputable clans like Jiang Tian. Big brother Yi Feng, didn't you say that you're an iron body expert and are invincible in Wuxia? Suddenly, Tang Bao pouted her bright red lips, frowned, and spoke with an aggrieved and disappointed expression. I was talking about an expert in personal combat. The type that comes into close contact with their employer. Yi Feng had an evil smile on his face, and he intentionally glanced at Tang Bao's ample chest and cleavage. Actually, he didn't possess any cultivation in the martial Dao, and his strength was only at the top amongst mercenaries and assassins. He couldn't compare to a true martial artist at all. It turned out that whenever Jiang Tian joked like this, Tang Bao would grin from ear to ear and call him a scoundrel and a pervert. You're really bored. Get your facts straight, you're a bodyguard. Don't talk to me like that. However, Tang Bao had a cold and gloomy expression while her eyes were filled with annoyance. After that, she ran over to Jiang Tian's side and asked him all sorts of questions. Kid, just you wait. Let me see exactly what sort of strength you possess. I'll definitely beat you to death. Yi Feng gnashed his teeth with hatred when he witnessed this scene, and the flames of jealousy blazed madly within him. He wished for nothing more than to burn Jiang Tian's bones and scatter his ashes. Master Kong, this courtyard is called Aura of Wind, and it's specially prepared for you. If you need anything, feel free to instruct those servants. The guard led them through a few entrances and made many turns, and it almost caused them to get dizzy. After walking for over 10 minutes, they finally stopped before the entrance to a large courtyard. All right, sorry for the disturbance. Jiang Tian smiled. You can eat here tonight or at the restaurant. There will be many fellow martial artists there, and it's good to get along well. The guard cupped his fists respectfully. All right, Li Yang, thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tian nodded. Seeing that the guard had accompanied him diligently and had a simple and honest personality, Jiang Tian casually rewarded him with something. Thank you, Master Kong. The guard named Li Yang bowed and left the courtyard. Seeing that it was a small porcelain bottle, he didn't take it to heart. However, when he opened it, he was so shocked that he almost jumped up. Fuck, an essence pill. It can help me break through once. This medicinal pill can't even be bought for 10 million. He looked reverently at Jiang Tian, who was strolling around the courtyard, and said in a trembling voice, Master Kong is indeed Master Kong. He's so heroic. At the next moment, he shook his head and said regretfully, What a pity. I heard that the purpose of this Martial Arts Alliance conference is to discuss how to deal with this Master Kong. Should I have reminded him earlier? For a moment, he couldn't make up his mind, but after thinking for a moment, he still walked towards a large hall in the north of the manor. At the same time, in a large hall, there was a black plaque hanging on the wall. The words, Hall of Brotherhood, were engraved on it. The words, handwritten by Yi Zhantian, were written vertically below. The hall was filled with martial artists, both men and women, but all of them were over 40 years old. Each of them had a dignified aura and sharp eyes. At first glance, one could tell that they were all highly skilled martial artists. Who is that Kong Teichu? How could he cause such a huge stir in the Jianghu world? At the head of the table sat an old man in his 60s. His face was rosy and his body was slightly plump. Although he was still smiling, there was a hint of seriousness in his eyes. This was the president of the Martial Arts Alliance, Wei Feilong. He was also a transcendent initial stage cultivator. Although he was not as powerful as Yi Zhantian, he had once fought alongside Yi Zhantian and was now the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. President Wei, Kong Teichu is too cruel. Hong Tianzhao and I are sworn brothers, but he still killed him. Sitting next to him was an old man in his 50s. He had a resolute face, sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. The energy around him was as deep as the ocean. He looked like an unsheathed sword, ready to unleash its sharpness. The Grandmaster of Gan Province, Zhao Yuankuan. His face was filled with grief and resentment. Brother Tenzhou is a righteous man. Who in the Jianghu world doesn't respect him? His death is a great loss to the martial arts world. President Wei, you must uphold justice and avenge Tenzhou. Hong Junshan, the family head of the Hong family, rose to his feet shakily. His eyes were red and his face was filled with grief. That Kong Teichu is too cruel. My grandpa and old Immortal Wei were both killed by him. Another man got up from his seat and knelt on the floor. Tears streamed down his face as he gritted his teeth and complained about Jiang Tian's heinous crimes. This man was the grandson of the Grandmaster of Lingnan, Mo Haoxiong, Mo Linhai. What? Old Man Mo and Old Man Wei were killed by him? What an arrogant man. Wei Feilong slammed the table, his face dark. All these years, Yi Zhantian had been in seclusion. The Huaxiaolong formation was mainly focused on dealing with the hostile forces of the mutants. The heavy responsibility of suppressing the evil martial artists in the country and maintaining order was placed on his shoulders. Overall, in the past 5 years, the martial arts world in the country had reached a state of balance. There were few disputes, and the world was at peace. Who would have thought that such an arrogant man would appear before he stepped down? Not only that, Kong Teichu also killed my family. We must get rid of this scourge of the martial arts world. The Tang sect of Shu Zhong, the Wang family of Luoyang, and the Chap Gua Quan stood up and shouted with righteous indignation. Who gave him the courage to disregard the morality of the martial arts world, kill the innocent, and bully the weak? Wei Feilong's face was red with anger. He gritted his teeth and wanted nothing more than to tear Jiang Tian into pieces. Yeah, if he has the ability, he should go out of the country and defeat those hostile forces. What's the point of being arrogant? The martial arts world is one family. This Kong Teichu may have some skills, but he is too ruthless. He is simply a scourge demon. Kong Teichu is perverse and deranged. If he is not removed, the martial arts world will not be peaceful. Seeing Wei Feilong's anger, many martial artists under the table gnashed their teeth and were filled with righteous indignation. President Wei, there is something you don't know. This man is not an ordinary person. He was once the martial arts consultant of War Dragon. Suddenly, Zhang Wendao said bitterly, he has the support of the government and is fearless. Isn't he just doing whatever he wants? What? He was the consultant of War Dragon? Many of the martial artists present were greatly shocked and exclaimed one after another. War Dragon's combat strength was second only to the Long formation, but the military was more powerful. To be their martial arts consultant was not an ordinary person. When did he become the consultant of War Dragon? Wei Feilong blinked, his eyes flickering as he asked in a deep voice. About a month ago, I guess, Zhang Wendao said with a wry smile. This man is ruthless and ruthless. When my son fought with him that day, he used a long saber made of silk and seriously injured his internal organs. He still hasn't gotten up yet. Qi Tian is a talent of the younger generation. How could he be so seriously injured by him? Brother Wendao was also the saber technique instructor of War Dragon. Your nephew Zhang Lang and Kong Teichu can be said to be comrades in arms, but he was so heavy-handed. He is crazy. Hearing this, many experts were heartbroken. Their hearts burned with anger, and they hated Jiang Tian even more. Kong Teichu is already the most outstanding martial arts grandmaster of the younger generation in Huaxia. It is not easy for him to be able to make a qi weapon and hurt people from a distance. But how could he be so ruthless and ruthless? Does he want to be the only man in the world? There were also martial artists who shook their heads and sighed regretfully. After learning about the relationship between Jiang Tian and War Dragon, everyone felt that the situation was complicated and important. The discussion gradually quieted down. Finally, they all looked at Wei Feilong and waited for his decision. If Kong Teichu is just a Jianghu bumpkin, then so be it. Wei Feilong went silent for a moment when he heard this, and then he let out a long sigh and said slowly, But he's a comrade of Daoist brother Wen's. Should we give him some face, persuade him with reason, and make him abandon evil and do good? When a real man does something, he should put integrity first. Some feelings for his comrade in arms should be thrown to the back of his mind. At this time, Zhang Mingli summoned her courage and clenched her fists again. She stood up from behind Zhang Wendao. She took a step forward, puffed out her full chest, and shouted, "Hua Xia's martial arts have been declining day by day. Which famous hero doesn't have a few unique skills? But now that he has been killed by Kang Teichu, his legacy has been cut off. If this goes on, won't our Hua Xia's martial arts be finished?" Originally, she was not qualified to speak at this kind of occasion. But thinking of her brother Zhang Qitian's tragic situation, she could not swallow the anger in her heart. When she first opened her mouth, she was unusually nervous and sweating on her forehead. But the more she spoke, the braver she became and the smoother her words became. Her pink face was full of anger, and she said vehemently, "Even if our Zhang family has some relationship with him, we can't abandon justice because of personal kindness. As the saying goes, righteousness is above family. What's more, he was only a temporary martial arts consultant of War Dragon. He has already left." As soon as she finished speaking, the crowd cheered. Qiu Gong and Li Jinwei, who had been invited to the banquet, became angrier and angrier. At this time, Duke Qiu could not take it anymore. He stood up and said in a low voice, "Does everyone remember that Grandmaster Jiang killed Xing Shanhu of the Big Circle Gang? Xing Shanhu represented the Dahuan Gang and wanted to invade the inland. It was Master Kong who turned the tide. Otherwise, the Jiangbei region would have fallen into the hands of outsiders." Yeah, the reason why Elder Mo and Wei Shuofeng were killed by Master Kong was because Wei Shuofeng wanted to invade the Jiangbei region first. Master Kong is the leader of Jiangbei. How could he just sit back and do nothing? Even though Li Jinwei knew that he was no match for many transcendent masters, he still stood up to speak for Jiang Tian. Lingnan martial arts was not flourishing. This time, only the two of them were invited to the banquet. Humph! Kang Teichu fought for the sake of Jiangbei for his own personal gain and territory. Zhang Mingli said disdainfully. Humph, that's right. Only a bunch of spineless Jiangbei people would support him. But in our Hong clan, we will fight Jiang Taichu to the death. Hong Hichu also cursed angrily. Chapter 178. Qiu Gong was so angry that his face turned pale. He jumped into the air and said coldly, "Humph, I saw it clearly that day. It was the Hong family and the Shinnong school who plotted against Master Kong and wanted to rob Master Kang's top-grade elixir formula. That was why Master Kong fought back. Who can you blame if your skills are inferior and you die an unnatural death? Yuan Qiuqiu, who do you think you are? You are just Yi Gufeng's personal bodyguard, Kang Teichu's lackey." Hong Hichu knew that he was in the wrong. His face turned red, but he didn't show mercy. He scolded with disdain, "You don't have the right to enter the Martial Arts Alliance conference. Get out of here with your tail between your legs. I'm going to be Kang Teichu's lackey until the end. So what if the Hong family is a famous family? Come on, let me see what you can do." Duke Qiu rolled up his sleeves and roared, "If Jiang Taichu really is the public enemy of the martial world, killing without restraint as you say, his hands stained with blood, I will be the first to fight him to the death. But even if there are thousands of heroes in the world, a lackey like you, Hong Hichu, won't stand a chance. Who do you think you are? You are just a young man. How dare you talk nonsense here? You are just an old man. Do you think I will be afraid of you?" Hong Hichu was also a young talent. How could he stand it? He also jumped into the arena. Clang. He pulled out his sword, but suddenly saw a piece of paper falling slowly from the scabbard. He looked down at the small line of words on the paper, "Kang Teichu pays his respects." Hong Hichu was stunned. His face turned pale and he said in a trembling voice, "This is the note from the hotel I stayed in yesterday. When did he get close to me?" His boiling hot blood turned into cold sweat, and his heart was filled with horror. This Jiang Taichu was so powerful that he could actually approach him without making a sound. Even his treasured sword was affected, and he didn't even know about it. If he wanted to kill him, How could he still be alive? Seeing that Hong Hichu was slightly stunned, Zhao Yuankuan quickly took the opportunity to smooth things over. The world of martial arts is one family. Both of you are my honored guests, so please don't lose your harmony. Seeing this, Hong Hichu went along with it. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and returned to his seat. Haha, it's so rare for such a talented person to appear in Hua Xia's martial arts world. I think he should be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. Just when the crowd of heroes was thinking of making a fuss about it, suddenly, a sinister voice rang out, like the screech of a night owl. When the crowd of heroes heard this, they were immediately enraged. One after another, they berated, "Who's talking? Come out if you have the guts. What's the point of sneaking around in the crowd? Which bastard is spouting such nonsense?" But that person only said a few words and did not say anything else. The entire hall was silent. The crowd looked around for a long time but could not see who was talking. Although they were angry, there was nothing they could do. The crowd of heroes was ridiculed with sarcastic words. They were all very angry. The majority of the Wulin people were straightforward. Their education level was not high. Some of them cursed loudly, some of them shouted loudly. The scene was chaotic. Wei Feilong frowned and said in a low voice, "Everyone, please don't panic. Listen to me." The crowd quieted down. The hoarse voice rang out from the crowd again. "Wei Feilong, you're just Yi Zhantian's dog. Don't pretend to be someone important. What kind of advice do you have? It's just that there's no need to talk about Jianghu morality when dealing with a madman like Kong Teichu. What a joke." This time, the crowd was alert. They observed in advance, but they saw that no one spoke. They did not know where the voice came from. Wei Feilong's old face flushed red. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. "Who's talking? Come out and fight with me." Many people in the crowd rolled up their sleeves. The sound of rustling could be heard. Cold light flashed. Those who had weapons pulled out their long swords and scolded. "Li Zhenwei, are you the one who did this? Let's fight." Some people thought that it was Li Zhenwei and Qiugong's trick. They almost started a fight. Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankuan stood up and waved their hands to stop them. But they only heard the noise of the crowd. The scene became even more chaotic. At this moment, the guard Li Yang hurried in and whispered something in Zhao Yuankuan's ear. Zhao Yuankuan heard this and his face changed. He asked Li Yang and pointed outside. Then he whispered something in Wei Feilong's ear. Wei Feilong heard this and his face also changed. He said something to Hong Junshan who was beside him. The latter was also shocked. Just like that, 1 spread to 2, 2 spread to 4, 4 spread to 8. In just a few seconds, the hall was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. This was because everyone heard one sentence, "Kong Teichu is the banker." Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankuan whispered to each other for a while. In the end, the fear on Zhao Yuankuan's face gradually faded. He said slowly, "Don't alert him yet. Let him stay and serve him well." Li Yang turned around and left. The hearts of all the heroes present were thumping wildly, as if they were beating drums. They thought that if over 100 internal force users and a few transcendent masters attacked Jiang Tian at the same time, they might be able to cut him into pieces. However, Jiang Tian was too famous. After his rise, he killed Fu Biao, Xing Shanhu of the Great Circle, and also the Grandmaster Hong Tianzhao of the Yi Province on Mount Garuda. He defeated the Shenong sect and killed the 2 heroes of Lingnan, Mo Haoxiong and Wei Shuofen. He dominated Lingnan and was named by Yi Zhantian as one of the top 20 young grandmasters. Even if there was only one of these valiant achievements, it was enough for a martial artist to look down on the world, dominate a region, and show off for a lifetime. What's more, Jiang Tian had killed so many powerful martial artists in less than half a year. Who wouldn't be scared? Moreover, Jiang Tian had come alone. No one knew what kind of scheme he had or what he was relying on. This caused everyone's hair to stand on end. For a moment, no one could come up with a plan. Suddenly, a disciple walked up to Wei Feilong and said something. Wei Feilong's face lit up. He stood up and exclaimed, "He's here?" That disciple also nodded with a face full of joy, and then leaned over to whisper a few words into his ear. Wei Feilong sat down again. It seemed that he had gained a lot of support. His face was unprecedentedly stern, completely different from his usual amiable self. His eyes also became serious as he glanced at the crowd and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, don't worry. If Jiang Tian doesn't listen to our advice, we won't let him do whatever he wants. We will work together to suppress him." Everyone knew that this person was cowardly. He was good at defending his achievements but not creative enough. He had always been a smooth talker, but they didn't know why his attitude changed so quickly and completely. Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, Wei Feilong suddenly said in a deep voice, "The big shot of the Central Plains, the veteran Grandmaster Wuxia Tian, is also attending the Martial Arts Alliance's gathering. He said that he will uphold justice for everyone. Old Master Hua is here. If Old Master Hua is here, Kong Teichu won't dare to act rashly no matter how powerful he is. Great, now that Old Master Hua is here, I'd like to see how long Master Kong can run rampant." Humph, so what if he's a Grandmaster? He's still a far cry from a veteran Grandmaster like Wuxia Tian. He's just a small fry. Yeah, Kong Teichu is so young. He's only at the initial level of the transcendent state. I'm afraid it's all due to luck that he can force his way through. How can he compare with Old Master Hua? That's right. Old Master Hua is the third most powerful Grandmaster on the divine roll, second only to Yizhantian. No matter who they are, Kong Teichu is, they'll all have to kneel before him. When everyone heard this, their hearts were set at ease, and they were unable to contain their joy, causing their spirits to rise. The crowd was in an uproar as they discussed among themselves. It was as if Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Sigh, now that Old Master Hua is here to uphold justice, there's finally hope for our blood feud. Heaven has eyes. Heaven has eyes. Like Hong Junshan and his granddaughter, Zhang Wendao and his daughter, the Tang sect, and the Mo family of Lingnan, those who had once been crushed by Jiang Tian were even more excited. Some of them even shed tears of excitement. No wonder they had such a reaction. Wuxia Tian was a veteran grandmaster who had made his name even earlier than Yi Zhantian. He had already reached the peak of the transcendent state and had been famous in Huaxia for decades. Although Yi Zhantian had made a name for himself in one battle 20 years ago and had taken control of the dragon group, Wuxia Tian's reputation was no less than his. Years ago, he had sparred with Yi Zhantian on the Tianzhu mountain of the Central Plains. The battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights and ended in a draw. Later, Yi Zhantian created the divine list and Wuxia Tian was ranked 3rd on the list. He was more powerful than Li Tuofeng, Suzhi, and Yi Wudao in the northwest. Yi Zhantian called him the most powerful man in Huaxia who has mastered all kinds of martial arts. He is the most powerful man in the world who has the potential to reach the immortal state in his lifetime. Hong Tianzhao, Mo Haoxiong, and the others were far weaker than him. Wuxia Tian and Yi Zhantian were good friends despite the difference in age. Wuxia Tian alone dominated the entire Central Plains and stood on both sides of the Yellow River. Many industries in Yu Province, Ji Province, Shan Province, Insignia Province, and several other provinces in the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River were controlled by the Hua family alone. Wei Feilong's confidence was boosted when he heard that Old Man Hua was coming. He scanned the crowd and gestured for them to quiet down. Then he said with a smile, "Everyone, this old man thinks we should persuade and educate Kong Teichu. Although this man is crazy and bloodthirsty, he is indeed a genius in martial arts." Many of the people present nodded in agreement. Jiang Tian was the most powerful man in Huaxia who had reached the transcendent state before the age of 30. Although the crowd did not like Jiang Tian's arrogant personality, they had no choice but to admit that his strength and talent were outstanding. Zhao Yuankuan nodded and said, "If he comes to his senses and can lower his head and admit defeat, we might as well let him live." "Yes, Sect Master Wei, you are a wise man. We are no match for you," a martial artist said with a smile. Suddenly, a wave of flattery came from the crowd. Chapter 179. Everyone, you're being too polite. Wei Feilong shook his head and smiled bitterly. This old man was born slow-witted. His talent in martial arts is only average. Back then, he was enlightened by brother Yi Zhantian many times before he stepped into the transcendent realm at the age of 60. Just as everyone was about to compliment him, he waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Because of this old man also knows that the cultivation of martial arts is not easy. It's even more difficult to produce a grandmaster. Therefore, since the day this old man became the president, he has always adhered to one principle: to convince people with virtue and harmony. The martial arts of the world are one family." That's right. Old Man Wei is really kind. We admire you very much. If that Kong Teichu of Jiangbei suddenly comes to his senses and turns over a new leaf, we will spare his life. However, if he doesn't know when to back down and insists on doing things his own way, becoming an enemy of the martial arts of the world, there's no need for us to be polite either. That's right. We have the advantage in numbers. Each of us can give him a slap. May I ask if Kong Teichu is made of iron? Can he withstand it? That's right. Now that all the heroes of the world have gathered here and there is a peerless expert like Wuxia Tian holding the fort, even if he is Master Kong or Master Garlic, he can only kneel and beg for mercy. Although the Hong clan of Yi Province, Mo clan of Lingnan, Tang sect of Central Shu, Golden Saber Wang clan of Luoyang, and Five Tiger sect Breaking Saber technique were dissatisfied with this decision and wanted to directly kill Jiang Tian, they knew that Wei Feilong was a void pierce stage expert and was unwilling to stir up a dispute. Therefore, they could only grit their teeth and give up. With the arrival of Wuxia Tian, the situation took a turn for the worse. The gloominess that shrouded everyone's heart was swept away. For a moment, everyone was full of confidence. They talked and laughed loudly as if everything was under their control. "Brother Zhao, I'm afraid that we will have to trouble you to invite that Master Kong to join the banquet tonight. This will also show our sincerity." Wei Feilong looked at Zhao Yuankuan and chuckled. As Hong Tianzhao's sworn brother, Zhao Yuankuan also wanted to kill Jiang Tian, but he was also a scheming person. Before he saw Jiang Tian's strength with his own eyes, he didn't want to pick a fight. So he stood up, cupped his fists, and said with a smile, "Hee, I still have to do my part as a host. Let's try peaceful means before resorting to force. I'll go invite him now. This house is enough for more than 10 people to live in. Also, this scenery is much better than our blue villa." After they entered the courtyard, Tang Bao looked around and exclaimed incessantly with admiration. She felt like her eyes weren't enough to take in everything. The bamboo forest, the pond, the withered lotus, the withered plum blossom, the rockery, every single one of them was like a landscape painting that was ingenious and full of interest. She grabbed Jiang Tian and pressed her full breasts against Jiang Tian's arm. She smiled and said, "Brother Jiang Tian, what is your background? Why did they give you such a large house to live in? Who's your brother? Stay away from me." Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her and directly shook her off. He walked into the largest guest room and video called Qinger to tell her that he was safe. "This kid has such a temper. You relied on your family's protection to get in here. What's so great about you?" Tang Bao had been pursued by many men since she was young, so she had never received such cold treatment. She couldn't help but feel angry and aggrieved. She pouted and stomped her foot while sparkling and translucent tears flickered in her beautiful eyes. Yi Feng patted her on the shoulder and said softly with a gloomy expression, "I'll help you vent your anger after I change my clothes." Brother Yi Feng is the best. Tang Bao instantly had a good impression of him, and she clapped her hands and smiled. Lin Manong frowned and said, "Yi Feng, you can't be unreasonable. No matter what, Jiang Tian helped you today." "Don't worry, Sister Manong. I just want to seek guidance from an expert." Yi Feng revealed a charming smile as his gaze swept over Lin Manong's curvaceous body greedily. Although Bao was known as the #1 breast in the Blue Villa, Sister Manong's was actually the biggest. It was estimated to be 32F. However, Sister Manong was tall, while Bao was shorter, so her breasts were bigger. Lin Manong was so disgusted that she wanted to vomit when she saw Yi Feng looking at her chest with a sinister expression. She rolled her eyes and said, What are you looking at? Why are your eyes so dishonest? Lin Manong rolled her eyes in disgust, but to the self-proclaimed flirtatious Yi Feng, it was a flirtatious look. He smiled evilly and said, I'm looking at your chest. You? Lin Manong was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe it and was almost disgusted to death. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? Hee. Yi Feng laughed and shook his head. He had to go into his room to change his clothes. However, he didn't know that there was someone outside the courtyard looking in through the fence. He sneered in his heart. This brat dares to flirt with young Master Lei's woman. How dare he? He turned around and left, hurriedly rushing to a courtyard that was on the same scale as Listen to Feng Shui rhyme. He walked into a large room and said to a young man dressed in martial arts attire, reporting to young Master Lei, we've already found Lin Manong's whereabouts. Where is she? Lei Gang nodded, a sinister look flashing across his eyes. Lin Manong had already agreed to marry him, but she had suddenly run away. He chased her all the way and only found out that she had lost her sports car after checking the CCTV at the gas station. He followed the car plate number and checked the CCTV all the way here. That follower hurriedly reported. After hearing this, Lei Gang stood up and smiled proudly. Ha, Lin Manong, do you think you can escape from me? Zhao Yuankuan is my uncle, and Zhao Hao is my cousin. This water manor is my home turf. You're walking right into my trap. Young Master Lei, that bodyguard of Mingyao's called Yi Feng. He doesn't know what's good for him. The follower led him to Jiang Tian's villa, not forgetting to report on Jiang Tian's flirting with Lin Manong. Bodyguards these days are all ridiculous. They have no professional ethics at all, thinking that flirting with their employer's miss is the right thing to do. Lei Gang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. I'll break his fucking legs later. Jiang Tian went to the bathroom to wash off the dust on his body and changed into clean clothes. He saw that it was getting late and decided to go to the restaurant for dinner. According to guard Li Yang, he could also ask someone to send food and vegetables over. However, Jiang Tian still wanted to meet the various martial artists and ask about the whereabouts of the D-daughter flower. He had just stepped out of the door when he saw Yi Feng in a black suit, a cold expression on his face. Yi Feng, don't be like this. Meng Yao and Lin Manong, on the other hand, were begging him for something. Tang Bao, on the other hand, was looking at Jiang Tian coldly, a teasing smile on her lips. Jiang Tun, do you dare fight me? Yi Feng turned a deaf ear to Lin Manong and Meng Yao's words as he stared expressionlessly at Jiang Tian with his hands in his pockets. Get lost. You're just a guard dog, you don't have the right to make me fight. Jiang Tian scolded, his face cold. He was annoyed to death. What kind of monsters were these? He wouldn't have brought them in if he'd known. Those words hit Yi Feng's sore spot. He might have been an ace assassin, but on the surface, he was the Mrs. Bodyguard. Those rich young masters always used that to mock him. However, he'd secretly gotten rid of all those young masters who'd mocked him. Not a single one of them had survived. Yi Feng's eyes turned darker and darker as a mocking smile appeared on his lips. I think you don't have the guts. Ha, you really are a useless piece of trash. I'll kill you with one slap if you keep talking. Jiang Tian raised an eyebrow, his tone calm. This guy had a bloodthirsty aura, but his cultivation was trash. One look and you could tell that he was one of those assassins or mercenaries who harmed the common world. Someone like this might be able to strut around in front of normal people, but to Jiang Tian he was nothing more than an ant or a fly. He'd kill him if he dared to make any more noise. Lin Manong couldn't stand it anymore. He scolded angrily. Yi Feng, show some respect. If it wasn't for Jiang Tian stopping you, you'd be dead by now. Lei Gang suddenly came in with a few companions. He looked at Lin Manong and chuckled. Manong, you're here too? What a coincidence. Why are you here too? Lin Manong's eyes were filled with fear and panic. He didn't expect Lei Gang to chase after him. Big bro Lei Gang, you're here. Tang Bao saw that Jiang Tian was only arguing with Yi Feng and didn't dare to make a move. She pulled Lei Gang's arm with a smile and pointed at Jiang Tian. This is Jiang Tian, young Master Jiang of House Jiang in Jinling. He's currently in a relationship with Big Sis Manong. She even winked at Jiang Tian and Lin Manong playfully. Sigh, it's the same old trick. Meng Yao shook her head helplessly. Tang Bao are always like to do this. She would use others as shields, and then she would turn two groups of people into love rivals who would fight each other until their heads bled. However, these fools who were used as shields seemed to be willing to endure the hardship. Perhaps this was the privilege of a beautiful woman. Lin Manong panicked and stomped his foot. Bao, what are you talking about? You'll get Jiang Tian killed. Jiang Tian was disgusted with Tang Bao. She was exactly the same as Han Yen, he met on the way to Shenong School. Oh, you're Miss Lin's boyfriend? When Lei Gang heard this, he half believed and half doubted. He looked at Jiang Tian with a gloomy gaze, his killing intent faintly visible. He was also from Jinling, born in House Lei of the martial arts world. Although there was only one practitioner in the house, martial arts wasn't very popular in Jinling. House Lei opened a few dojos and had good relations with many rich people. They had quite a bit of power. Naturally, he wouldn't care about Jiang Tian, the abandoned son of House Jiang. Although Jiang Tian didn't care about Lei Gang, he didn't want to be taken advantage of. He smiled faintly. She's just spouting nonsense. I'm Miss Lin's friend, but we're not in a relationship. Lei Gang was so angry that his face turned green. He threw Tang Bao to the side and yelled, "Bitch, can't you be more reliable with that mouth of yours? You're always spouting shit." Tang Bao was pushed to the point she fell to the ground, and she was in an extremely embarrassing and sorry state. Her pretty face instantly flushed red, and she felt very frustrated. This guy didn't even want to take the hit? That wasn't how it was written in novels. Meng Yao looked down on Jiang Tian when she saw that he wasn't willing to be a shield. A man like this has no sense of responsibility. He doesn't even have the courage to take on Lei Gang. Coward. Yi Feng smiled in disdain and shook his head in disappointment. You really are a useless piece of trash. Coward and useless. Huh, I'm useless. Then do you dare to hit on Lin Manong? Jiang Tian smiled. Who would want to be a shield? He wasn't going to be taken advantage of. Why wouldn't I dare? Isn't it a trend for bodyguards to hit on female employers? Yi Feng didn't want to take on Lei Gang, but he straightened his neck and said proudly. Chapter 180. You want to die? Don't you know that Lin Manong is my woman? How dare a piece of trash like you blaspheme her? Lei Gang strode towards Yi Feng, his knuckles cracking as he grinned, Kneel and kowtow to me. Yi Feng was still holding back his anger after getting beaten up by Li Yang. Now that Lei Gang was being so rude to him, how could he hold it in? You want me to kneel? Do you know how strong I am? His handsome face darkened as he appeared in front of Lei Gang like a flash of lightning. He raised his hand and sent a chop towards Lei Gang's neck. He used all his strength in this chop. The wind howled and the air exploded, forming a series of afterimages. The damage was shocking. If it landed on a normal person, they would have fainted, if not died on the spot. Wow. Yi Feng is so handsome. Tang Bao's face was filled with admiration and adoration. She held her heart with her hands, her eyes filled with love. Yi Feng, you're hitting people again. Meng Yao pouted helplessly, but her eyes were filled with love and adoration. In their eyes, Yi Feng was a peerless master from the depths of the mountains. He would definitely defeat Lei Gang. However, they underestimated Lei Gang's background and the strength of a fighter. They didn't even see how Lei Gang moved. With a muffled bang, Yi Feng was sent flying more than 3 meters away and fell into the pond, splashing water everywhere. Lei Gang slowly lowered his right leg and snorted in disdain. "Aunt, you can't even take a hit." Yi Feng got sent flying again. He's a flying man now. Meng Yao and Tang Bao are almost fainted. Their expressions changed to one of disbelief. How did Yi Feng, who was invincible in Jinling, get humiliated in Poyang Manor? How did he get humiliated everywhere? Yi Feng's head was kicked by Lei Gang. He felt his head buzzing and saw stars. He drank a few mouthfuls of dirty water before crawling out of the pond. If I wasn't injured just now, you wouldn't be my opponent. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He could only say this stubbornly. This fighter was too strong. Why was he always meeting strong fighters? Every time he failed to show off, it became a slap in the face. It was too pitiful. Lei Gang didn't bother to look at him. He looked at Lin Meng calmly. Miss Lin, why don't you accompany me for a chat? I. Lin Meng's face paled at Lei Gang's strength. Her eyes filled with tears as her body trembled. Of course. You don't want to go? Then I have no choice but to invite you. It was as if Lei Gang was looking at a little white rabbit that was struggling on its deathbed. He was like a ferocious tiger that was choosing its prey to devour. Of course, Miss Lin. Lei Gang's companions stepped forward one after another. If you don't cooperate, we'll take you away by force. Lin Meng's Lin of her. Once he went over, it would be tantamount to falling into the tiger's mouth, with no chance of escaping. However, Lei Gang was so powerful, what could he do? All right, I'll go with you. Just as she was about to walk toward Lei Gang, Jiang Tian said calmly, Miss Lin, what's going on? Sigh, my dad gambled in his family's casino and lost more than 10 million. My family can't afford to pay him back. Lin Meng sighed as tears rolled down her cheeks. When Jiang Tian heard half of it, he understood. It was just a cliché story of a girl having a good-for-nothing gambling father who owed the thug a huge sum of money and couldn't pay it back. The thug wanted the girl to pay the debt with her body, forcing her to marry him. Jiang Tian's face was calm as he smiled faintly and said, Lei Gang, I helped teacher Lin return the 10 million. Can you let her go? Jiang Tian and Lin Meng got along very well. She had given him a lot of pointers and help in university. Moreover, Jiang Tian realized that she was quite knowledgeable in Chinese medicine. After all, she was a postdoc at Wuxia Pharmaceutical University, so her standards weren't bad. Jiang Tian had recently come up with a few prescriptions and wanted to set up a research lab. Lin Meng was one of the candidates he had in mind. Seeing that she was in trouble, he naturally wouldn't sit idly by. But Lei Gang wanted Lin Monong's men, so how could he agree? He immediately smiled sinisterly. He sneered, Jiangdan, how much money do you have? You want to meddle in other people's business? Can you afford 10 million? Don't meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, I'll slap you to death. Lei Gang, I've already given you enough face. Don't be reckless. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, but his tone gradually turned cold as he said coldly, I'll take care of this matter to the end. This gambling debt is nullified. Get the hell out of here. If you dare to harass teacher Lin again, I'll skin you alive. Jiang Tian, hearing this, Lin Meng looked at Jiang Tian in shock. Her face was filled with disbelief. She didn't expect Jiang Tian to take on Lei Gang head-on and be so strong. It didn't matter if Jiang Tian had the strength or not. Just his courage alone was enough to move her. Most importantly, from the beginning to the end, Jiang Tian had always called her teacher Lin. He was very respectful to women and gave her a fresh and pleasant feeling. How could this be compared to the hooligan Yifeng? He's really an idiot. How dare he challenge Lei Gang? Can't he see how strong Lei Gang is? Yeah, even Jiang Tian was sent flying by him. Jiang Tian is always failing sports in school. How can he be a match for Lei Gang? He'll probably be beaten to death. But in Meng Yao and Tang Bao's eyes, Jiang Tian didn't know what was good for him. They couldn't help but mock him with disdain. This Lei Gang must be in the middle stage of Iron Body. He can shatter a giant rock with one kick. Jiang Tian is just a useless young master. How can he be a match for him? But this is good. If he gets beaten up even more, wouldn't he look better? Seeing this, Yi Feng was gloating in his heart. He was waiting for Jiang Tian to make a fool of himself. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, Lei Gang was so angry that he wanted to die. He sneered, Jiangdan, you're so arrogant. How dare you threaten me? Who do you think you are? You're just a piece of trash. Old Ghost, beat him up. Jiang Tian pointed at Lei Gang and said indifferently, Yes, master. Before Ghost Kick could finish his words, he was already blown out like a gust of wind. His foot landed on Lei Gang's face. Logically speaking, Lei Gang was also an expert among the younger generation of martial artists, but he was still too far away from the ghost kick. Caught off guard, he was actually kicked to the point where he staggered backwards, his head spinning. Several teeth flew out from his mouth, and there were even wisps of blood. It was a ghastly sight. The phantom kick was followed by a kick to his chest. The latter flew into the air and crashed into the rockery like a kite with a broken string. Then he slid down to the ground like a pile of mud. Blood kept spurting out of his mouth, making him look extremely miserable and battered. Bastard, with your strength, this old man can kill you with one kick. If it weren't for my master's kindness, you'd be dead by now. Ghost Kick's eyes were cold as he said in a low voice. How is this old man so strong? It's like an action movie. Jiang Tian's follower is actually an expert. Seeing this, Meng Yao and Tang Bao's mouths were wide open in disbelief. Ghost Kick's 12 kicks were too beautiful. They were dazzled and their hearts were in a daze. Lin Manong couldn't believe it either. He was dumbfounded. You dare to behave so atrociously in Poyang manner? Don't you know that this is House Zhao's territory? Kid, you're in trouble now. Zhao Yuankuan is Lei Gang's uncle. You'll have to bear the consequences this time. Lei Gang's companions were actually not martial artists. When they saw the ferocious ghost kick, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. They retreated while threatening Lei Gang. After a few threats, they retreated 5 or 6 steps. Call Master Zhao now. However, they weren't lying. Someone had already taken out his phone and called Zhao Yuankuan's son, Zhao Hao, over. This Jiang Tian really doesn't know what's good for him. He hit him so hard. Now no one can save him. Yi Feng finally understood the relationship between Lei Gang and Zhao Hao. He couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Although he was scared, he didn't forget to mock Jiang Tian. Yi Feng, who's Zhao Hao? Lin Manong asked. Oh, I see. Although Yi Feng hadn't really stepped into the martial arts world, he had heard so much about Zhao Hao that he was sick of hearing about him. It could be said that in the entire martial arts world, Zhao Hao was considered an outstanding figure among the younger generation. He was astonishingly talented. He had reached the cultivation of advanced inner force before the age of 30. He was known as a young martial arts master. Moreover, Zhao Hao was ruthless and arrogant. He had challenged martial arts masters all over Wuxia, killing and injuring dozens of famous martial arts masters. He had built a fierce reputation for himself. Some busybodies called him Sun Sky, Sun Earth, and Sun Air. He wasn't afraid of ghosts and was extremely bold. Therefore, he had an unpleasant nickname, Zhao Ritian. At this time, he was secretly glad that he had been defeated by Lei Gang. If he had beaten Lei Gang and Zhao Ritian came for revenge, he would have been skinned alive. He only has a master under him and some power in his family. How would he dare to fight Zhao Hao? Yi Feng glanced at Jiang Tian in disdain. His eyes were so wide that they could fly out of his eye sockets. It was as if Jiang Tian would run away in the next moment. Hearing Yi Feng's words, Lin Manong couldn't help but worry. The tears that had just dried up fell again. He said in a trembling voice, Jiangdan, let's go quickly. What if they catch us? How are we going to survive? Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian didn't move at all. His expression wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. He said calmly, it's just a small piece of trash. What's there to be afraid of? Since I'm going to meddle in your business, I'll do it until the end. Even God can't do anything to you. If he comes, I'll send him flying with a slap. Hi brother, you're so arrogant. You want to send me flying? Do you have what it takes? In less than a few minutes, a tall and imposing figure walked in with majestic steps and said with a sinister smile. Although he came alone, he was at least 2 meters tall, like an NBA center. His bronze-colored muscles coiled around his body like a dragon, and there was a strong and domineering aura that suppressed the whole place. He was like a giant beast from ancient times, and his aura was shocking. Lin Manong, the 3 girls, and Yi Feng all felt the immense pressure. They couldn't help but take a few steps back with fear on their faces. Cousin, help me vent my anger. This guy is too arrogant. He hit my face directly. Lei Gang struggled to crawl up, and like a loyal dog that had seen its master, he ran over to Zhao Hao and excitedly pointed at Zhao Hao and said, "Cousin, hurry up and kill him for me." Chapter 181. Slap. Zhao Hao gave him a tight slap on the face, causing blood to spurt out from his nose. He scolded with a thunderous voice, "Useless thing. You don't work hard and only know how to flirt with girls, race, and fight. Now you're embarrassing me." This shout was like a thunderclap, like the roar of a vajra. It shook Yifeng so much that he almost vomited. "Cousin, you're right." Lei Gang, who was domineering in Jinling, was beaten, but he bowed like a grandson and admitted his mistake with fear in his eyes. "Stand aside. Today, I'll show you the power of a martial artist." Zhao Hao's eyes shot out a terrifying cold light. He walked towards Jiang Tian with big steps, and said with a hideous smile, "Come, come, come. I'm Zhao Hao. I love fighting. Let's fight today. Let's see how you'll send me flying. Get lost. You're not qualified for me to fight." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Zhao Hao could be considered a martial arts prodigy. He was only in his 20s and had already reached the inner energy stage. However, he was still far from Jiang Tian's level. Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to fight a martial artist of this level. "For you, what gives you the right to be so arrogant?" Zhao Hao frowned in disbelief. Tang Bao rolled her eyes and said, "Brother Zhao Hao, his name is Jiang Tian. So he's the crown prince of Jinling's Jiang family." Jinling's Jiang family? What's that? A martial arts family? Zhao Hao asked with a frown. He wasn't willing to fight without knowing his opponent's background. "You've heard of the Medicine King group, right? It belongs to the Jiang family. However, the Jiang family is no longer in power." Tang Bao explained. She was very clever. To put it bluntly, she was a fence-sitter. She was afraid of offending Zhao Hao when she saw how powerful he was, so she deliberately approached him. Even if Zhao Hao defeated Jiang Tian and dealt with everyone, she would be able to avoid being implicated. As a descendant of a martial arts clan, Zhao Hao looked down on ordinary clans. Halfway through, he directly interrupted and sneered, Oh, a mere son of a pharmacy owner dares to call himself the crown prince. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Come, fight with me." Before he finished speaking, he stomped his feet on the ground, and the blue stone-paved ground cracked inch by inch. "He's so strong. Is he still human? He's like Superman or Spider-Man." Meng Yao and Lin Manong paled at the sight, their mouths agape as they broke out in cold sweat. "So strong. Big brother Yifeng, compared to him, you're too far apart. From now on, I'm going to change my idol." Tang Bao cheered heartlessly as she watched on with rapt attention. She'd already taken Zhao Hao to be her idol. "Too powerful. As expected of a young martial Dao master, I was really a frog at the bottom of the well." Yifeng broke out in a cold sweat. His eyes were lifeless, and his heart was filled with dejection, loss, and even despair. He'd been in the assassin world for many years and had made a name for himself. He was originally extremely arrogant and full of himself, but after seeing Zhao Hao today, he realized that there was always someone better than him out there. "Jianggan, be careful?" Lin Manong cried out, so anxious that tears were flowing out. She was extremely grateful to Jiang Tian. She swore in her heart that if Jiang Tian was crippled by him, she would take care of Jiang Tian for the rest of his life. If Jiang Tian was beaten to death, then she would accompany him in death. Under everyone's shocked and fearful gazes, Zhao Hao had already leapt high into the air. His posture was violent, like a dragon or a tiger. Then, a straight fist shot out like a cannonball, exploding in the air. With boundless killing intent, it viciously smashed towards Jiang Tian's chest. "You're so annoying." In response, Jiang Tian smiled lazily. He slowly raised his jade-white palm and lightly slapped it down as if he was swatting a fly. In the next moment, Zhao Hao was like a toad, lying on the ground with a thud. Blood spurted out of his mouth. His mouth was crooked, and his eyes were slanted. He didn't move at all. The entire place was silent. Dead silence. It was so silent that you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Shock was written all over their faces. How is this possible? Lei Gang was completely dumbfounded as he mumbled to himself. His cousin was a genius in his eyes. With a single punch, his inner strength would explode, and even a giant rock would be smashed into dust. Moreover, his physical body was strong, able to take on long swords and other cold weapons head-on. However, with just a casual tap from Jiang Tian, he was knocked down. It was as if the two had planned this prank beforehand. Jiang Teng can fight so well. Meng Yao and Tang Bao felt as if they were in a dream. They couldn't believe what had just happened. It was like a legend. What did he go through? How did he become so strong? Lin Manong looked at Jiang Tian's back. She was shocked but also felt an indescribable sense of security. It was as if Jiang Tian was a mountain that could shelter her from the wind and rain. She couldn't help but want to get closer and look up at him. Something big has happened. Quick, report to the master. Seeing this, many of the Zhao family's servants were frightened and panicked. They hurriedly rushed out of the door and ran towards the Hall of Brotherhood. Zhao Yuankuan left the Hall of Brotherhood and was walking towards Jiang Tian's courtyard when a few servants stumbled and crawled towards him. Seeing this, he stood there majestically, frowned, and said in a low voice, "Why are you all so flustered? Won't you become a joke to the world? You're disgracing us again." "Master, something bad has happened." Zhao Hao was beaten up by a kid called Jiang Tian until he vomited blood. The servants cried out in alarm, their faces deathly pale. "What? Zhao Hao is injured." Zhao Yuankuan's face was filled with shock and disbelief. He knew the temperament of his son, who was nicknamed Zhao Ritian, very well. He was arrogant and domineering, wild and rough. He was like a barrel of explosives that would explode at the slightest provocation. Usually, he would cause trouble for him. However, Zhao Hao's cultivation was also very strong. Among the younger generation of martial artists, he was also an outstanding figure. He was as famous as Zhang Qigan. Usually, he was like a big crab, domineering and tyrannical. He was the one who broke the bones of others and caused them to vomit blood. When had he been injured by others? In the next moment, Zhao Yuankuan thought of another key question. Who's Jiang Tian? Where is he from? Which family is he from? In the martial world, Jiang Tian had always been famous as the beginning. As for the name Jiang Tian, he never revealed it himself. He made many people who knew about it keep it a secret in order to live a peaceful life in the secular world. Therefore, Zhao Yuankuan had heard the name Kong Teichu so many times that his ears were calloused. However, he felt that the name Jiang Tian was very unfamiliar to him. He's from Jiangbei. I think he's from Jinling. He has the ghost kick and lives in the courtyard of listening to Feng Shui Yun. He's so strong. With one slap, young Master Zhao Hao fell down and vomited blood. The servants were all scrambling to report what they knew. It's Kong Teichu. Zhao Yuankuan's face turned cold. He felt extremely uneasy. Why was his son so blind to fight with Master Kong? This was a young master. If he attacked, how could Zhao Hao be in a good situation? Thinking of this, he quickened his pace. With a single step, he crossed a distance of 5 or 6 meters and quickly rushed to the courtyard where Jiang Tian was. Meng Yao, you're here too? What did you say just now? Was there a fight? Over at Feng Shui Yun's side, a noble young man, surrounded by several attendants, quickly walked over. His name was Xia Miao, Miao's boyfriend. House Xia was one of the top 20 in Jinling. His family was in the stock market, and more than half of the stock market in Jinling were owned by his family. Their assets were in the billions. Jiang Tian's handsome face darkened when he saw him. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Xia Miao was studying in the finance department of Jinling University, which was right next to Jiang Tian's. However, he was an excellent student and often received national scholarships. It was said that when he was still in his second year, he and a few friends in the finance and computer department came up with a mathematical model for stock trading. They were very accurate in picking stocks, and their predictions were flawless. With the 10 million starting capital given by his father, they made hundreds of millions in the stock market. At the time, Jiang Tian was also pursuing Meng Yao, and Xiaomiao got people to beat him up. He also humiliated Jiang Tian, saying that Jiang Tian was a toad who wanted to eat swan meat, and that he should take a piss and look at himself in the mirror. In actuality, House Jiang was doing pretty well at the time, and as the eldest son of Yaowang Group, Jiang Tian naturally couldn't take it lying down. He took his revenge. However, after a few exchanges, Jiang Tian was always at a disadvantage. Xia Miao was too outstanding, and his friends were all rich and powerful. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, only knew a couple of rich young masters. They were no match for Xia Miao. In the end, his mother found out about the conflict between Jiang Tian and Xia Miao. She tried to persuade Jiang Tian to give up on his hopeless plan. Jiang Tian still remembered how Xia Miao had participated in the Three Houses takeover of Yaowang Group in his past life, causing Yaowang Group and Qin Jinming to suffer a crushing defeat. After they got the shares, Xia Miao rushed to his old classmate Qin Jinming's trading room like a general who had won a great victory. He flaunted his strength and scolded Jiang Tian and the others for being a bunch of trash. Qin Jinming, who had been working for half a month without sleep, was so angry that he had a heart attack on the spot and almost died. "It's Jiang Tian who beat someone up," Meng Yao panicked as she ran to Lin Yi's side, hugging his arm. "And he's Lei Gang's cousin, Mr. Zhao Hao. What are we going to do about this?" "What? That's Zhao Hao." Zhao Hao's face was covered in blood, and Xia Miao didn't get a good look at him. Xia Miao took a closer look at Zhao Hao, who was sitting under the fake mountain. Xia Miao had been here for 2 days now, and he had interacted with Zhao Hao. He knew how terrifying House Zhao's power was. He was one of the top young masters in Jinling, on the same level as House Chen, House Chen, House Sun, House Chen, House Chen, House Chen, House Sun, and the others. But after seeing Zhao Hao's power, he finally understood what it meant to have supernatural power, what it meant to have the highest authority, and what it meant to be part of the upper class. Even people with assets in the tens of billions, people who often appeared on the rich list, had to be respectful when they saw a junior like Zhao Hao. 2 days ago, there was a young master whose family was in the iron business, with assets in the tens of billions, who accidentally bumped into Zhao Hao at a banquet. Zhao Hao broke his legs and threw him out the door. That young master's parents didn't even dare fart, apologizing profusely and almost kowtowing to Zhao Hao. "This kid, he's a troublemaker. Not only did he cause trouble in Jinling, he's even brought it to Gan province. He doesn't know what's good for him." The next moment, anger rose from his heart as he gritted his teeth. Chapter 182. Over the past few days, he had noticed that most martial artists were hot-tempered and merciless. They would seek revenge for the smallest grievance and should never be offended. Jiang Tian was also from Jinling like them. If Zhao Yuankuan and Zhao Hao were angered, even they would be affected. Being kicked out of the Martial Arts Alliance Grand Assembly would be a light punishment. They might even have their limbs broken. He strode towards Jiang Tian, raised his finger and pointed at him, his face full of disdain as he said, "You brat, you've got guts. How dare you beat up Zhao Hao? Are you tired of living? What does it have to do with you? Are you his dog?" Jiang Tian's face was calm as he said with a faint smile, "In my previous life, you suppressed me in every way and defeated the Jiang family. At that time, I had nothing and could only watch the tragedy unfold. But in this life, I, Kong Teichu, have returned after 10,000 years of cultivation. I'm as powerful as a god and a saint. I can kill you as easily as taking something out of my pocket. Why should I be polite to you?" Xia Miao didn't expect that Jiang Tian would dare refute her, and she was suddenly stunned. When she recalled the meaning of Jiang Tian's words, she was instantly angered to the point her face flushed red and pale, and she almost fainted. "Jiang Tian, are you crazy? How dare you talk to me like that? Do you believe that I won't kill you and destroy your Medicine King group?" Xia Miao suppressed his anger. His eyes were gloomy. This threat was full of confidence. Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold and a hint of surprise flashed across his face. "I've already killed Qin Bo and Sun Hao, the two vanguard generals, but it seems that the three families haven't collapsed yet. Their strategy against the Jiang family is still advancing steadily. Otherwise, Xia Miao wouldn't have said that. It seemed that there really was a transcendent power behind the forces of Jinling that was providing them with powerful support. Seeing Jiang Tian frowning in deep thought, Xia Miao thought that he had subdued Jiang Tian and couldn't help but feel even more proud. With a frivolous expression, he said, "Jiang Dun, now you know fear, right? Hurry up and kneel down before Zhao Hao and beg for his forgiveness." Otherwise, the other young lords from Jinling City also pointed at Jiang Tian and said arrogantly, "What the hell? All of you, shut up." At this moment, with a sudden shout, a tall middle-aged man walked in quickly. Xia Miao turned around to look, and he couldn't help but be horrified. After that, he was like a loyal dog that had seen its master, and he ran over while pointing at Jiang Tian as he said with righteous indignation, "Uncle Zhao, this kid hit big brother Zhao Hao, and I was just reprimanding him. He's simply crazy and doesn't know what's good for him." Then, with a fawning expression, he bowed and said with a smile, "Uncle Zhao, please understand. This kid has always been an ignorant and incompetent idiot in Jinling. We are all annoyed by him. The matter of him beating people has nothing to do with us, so he's Zhao Yuankuan. What a wise man. He's got an extraordinary presence." Meng Yao, Tang Bao, Yi Feng, and all the other tycoons looked at Zhao Yuankuan with eyes full of admiration. They very consciously stepped back and opened up a path for him, as if they were looking at a god. Zhao Yuankuan was the tycoon of Gan Province, and Qiankuan Group was involved in the hotel, real estate, mining, and many other industries. Their net worth was in the tens of billions, and while they weren't the richest in Gan Province, they were at least in the top 3. A family with such wealth was something that small families like theirs couldn't compare to. Moreover, they were a martial arts family with many talents and masters. They had supernatural strength, like dragons flying in the sky. That was something they couldn't compare to. "So this is Master Kong of Jiangbei? I didn't think he'd be so young." Zhao Yuankuan stared at Jiang Tian, stunned. Xia Miao's words didn't reach his ears at all. He knew that Jiang Tian was very young, but now that he'd seen Jiang Tian in person, he realized that Jiang Tian was even younger than he'd imagined. His skin was white, and his face was handsome. He looked like a young man. However, it was such a young man who looked less than 20 years old who had conquered half of Huaxia and dominated Lingnan in just half a year with an incomparably strong and almost invincible attitude, causing the martial artists in the world to fear him. This is going to be a big scene. I'm afraid that Jiang Tian won't have a chance to live even if he kneels down and begs for mercy. Serves him right. What an arrogant bastard. Is this a place where he can do as he pleases? Does he think this is his house Zhang's backyard? Meng Yao, Tang Bao, Yi Feng, and the others saw Zhao Yuankuan staring at Jiang Tian. They were all gloating. This kid really doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he hit young Master Zhao Hao? He's dead for sure this time. This was Zhao Yuankuan, a tyrant of an entire province. Even those feudal officials with assets in the tens of billions had to show him some respect. No matter how good Jiang Tian was at fighting, it was useless. How could he not admit defeat? Only Lin Manong was worried. Her eyes were red as she explained, "House Zhao, please don't be angry. There's a reason for this. Lei Gang wanted to force me, and Jiang Tian decided to uphold justice for me." "Shut up, Manong." Xia Miao shouted sternly in a deep voice. In his heart he thought, why is this girl so blind? Then he pointed at Jiang Tian and said, "Brat, you're still not kneeling after seeing Patriarch Xiao. You've really eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall. Trash, do you have the right to speak here?" Zhao Yuankuan's angry roar rang out. Slap. Suddenly, a crisp slap resounded throughout the entire arena. Everyone only saw a figure fly out like a rag doll. At this moment, they thought it was Zhao Yuankuan who had attacked Jiang Tian. Lin Manong even cried out and closed her eyes in fear, not daring to see the miserable scene that followed. But when they looked carefully, they saw that the person on the ground wasn't Jiang Tian, but Xia Miao. Half of Xia Miao's face was swollen like a pig's head and purplish red like an eggplant. Blood with a few broken teeth flowed out of his mouth, and he was in a semi-conscious state. At this moment, everyone felt like they had fallen into a dream. They were all stunned and completely dumbfounded. What was going on? Shouldn't Zhao Yuankuan crush Jiang Tian to vent his anger for his son? Why did he attack Xia Miao? But what was even more shocking was yet to come. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Zhao Yuankuan respectfully cupped his fists, lowered his arrogant head, and said respectfully, "I'm Zhao Yuankuan from northern Hubei. Greetings to Master Kong. Please forgive my son's offense." At this moment, everyone present only felt an electric current spreading from their spines to their limbs all the way to the top of their heads. The feeling of numbness exploded from the center of their heads. Accompanied by the magnificent and blooming sunset, densely packed ripples spread from the top of their heads to the surroundings. Everyone was dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief, and their hearts were filled with confusion. This was Zhao Yuankuan, a powerful existence. How could he be so respectful to Jiang Tian? Bao, am I dreaming? Please pinch me. Chu Mingyao's beautiful eyes were round as she muttered in a daze. Just who is he? Why does Zhao Yuankuan seem to be so respectful to him? Tang Bao's full chest heaved up and down violently, creating dazzling white waves. She was so shocked that she didn't even hear Yao Yao's words. What Master Kong? He's so famous that even the great Zhao Yuankuan has to lower his head to him. Yi Feng, who loved to peek, even forgot to look at Tang Bao's exquisite breasts. His eyes were round as he stared at the shocking scene in front of him in disbelief. So it's him. He's Master Kong. But I actually went to provoke him. Only Zhao Hao suddenly came to a realization. He was so shocked that his face was as white as paper, and he shrank back like a quail. Just now, he had a brush with death. Brother Zhao, you're too polite. I didn't know Sir Zhao's identity, so I was a little heavy-handed. Please forgive me. Jiang Tian cupped his fists and returned the greeting. His eyes narrowed as he sighed in his heart. This Zhao Yuankuan was a formidable figure. His son was beaten so badly, but he could still maintain his composure. A guardian had already gone to check on Zhao Hao's injuries. Fortunately, his meridians and sea of qi were not damaged. He would recover after a few days of rest. Well said, well said. Zhao Yuankuan smiled apologetically as he cupped his fists and said, "My son has always been arrogant and willful, which raised his arrogant and despotic personality. It's good that Grandmaster Jiang taught him a lesson. I still have to thank Grandmaster Jiang." Everyone was dumbfounded. Zhao Hao had been beaten so badly, but not only was Zhao Yuankuan not angry, he was even thanking Jiang Tian. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have dared to imagine it. All of this seemed like the biggest joke in the world. What did you say just now? You want to kill me and destroy the Medicine King group? Jiang Tian had his hands behind his back as he walked over to Xia Miao as if he was taking a stroll in the park. "Jiang, Master Kong, I was wrong. Please spare my life." Xia Miao was terrified as he knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. Jiang Tian was smiling, but in Xia Miao's eyes, it was as if a demon king from hell was staring at him, making him feel a trace of the aura of death. Although he didn't know Jiang Tian's identity, he knew that Jiang Tian was someone he couldn't afford to offend when he saw how respectful Zhao Yuankuan was to Jiang Tian. Killing him would be as easy as taking something out of his pocket. Sure enough, Zhao Yuankuan gave a laugh and said casually, "Master Jiang, this blind trash, just directly kill him." "Jiang, Master Kong, Patriarch Zhao, I know I was wrong. Please don't kill me. I don't want to die." Xia Miao was scared out of his wits when he saw a servant pulling out a shiny dagger and approaching him with a hideous grin. His face turned as white as a sheet of paper, his body trembled nonstop, and he spoke with a sobbing tone. Under the shadow of death, he threw away all his dignity and only wanted to save his own life. Under the extreme fear, Xia Miao's body suddenly trembled. He had lost control of his bladder. His entire crotch was wet, and a pungent stench filled the air. "Patriarch Zhao, please stop." Jiang Tian smiled lightly and stopped Zhao Yuankuan, And then he said with a composed and unhurried expression, "He's only an ant. If I wanted to kill him, then he would have become a corpse a long time ago. Why would I need to rely on an outsider to do it?" Zhao Yuankuan nodded and motioned for the servant to stop. Jiang Tian looked down at Xia Miao, who was kneeling on the ground, and mocked. "Someone like you dares to threaten me and have designs on the Medicine King Group? Don't think you're so great just because you can manipulate the stock price and scam a few individual investors. In my opinion, you're just a weak and useless piece of trash who only knows how to vent your lust on a few stupid women. You'll have to ask me if you want to touch the Jiang family." Chapter 183. Crazy. Too crazy. Everyone was shocked. Xia Miao was a famous person in Jinling, but in Jiang Tian's eyes, he was nothing more than an ant or a speck of dust. But when they thought about how Jiang Tian had suppressed Zhao Yuankuan to the point where he didn't even dare do anything, it made sense for him to be this arrogant. With that, Jiang Tian didn't even look at Xia Miao as he followed Zhao Yuankuan out of the courtyard. Man, so he's actually this capable. He should be the kind of martial arts master I'm looking for. Lin Manong's pretty face had a complicated expression as she stared at Jiang Tian's carefree and unruly back. Her heart was in turmoil. How is Jiang Tian so strong? It'd be great if he was my boyfriend. Tang Bao clasped her hand over her heart as she gazed at Jiang Tian's back. Her eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor as she muttered with a love-struck expression. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something as her face turned awkward. She pulled Meng Yao's arm excitedly. "Meng Yao sis, didn't Jiang Tian chase after you all those years ago? Do you think it's possible for you two to get back together now?" Lin Manong's face changed at the words. She turned her head around, her eyes focused on Meng Yao's face. "What did you say? Jiang Tian?" Meng Yao looked at Tang Bao in confusion, as if she'd just woken up from a dream. Lin Manong smiled gently as she said meaningfully, "Yeah, if Jiang Tian still has that kind of love, then he'd be very suitable for Meng Yao." "Suitable?" Meng Yao's eyes were blank as if she'd lost her soul. A strong sense of regret rose in her heart. The bitterness continued to spread until it covered her entire body, and even her mouth tasted bitter. She might have been able to say something like that a few years ago, but she didn't even dare think about it. The current Jiang Tian was treated so respectfully by a tyrant like Zhao Yuankuan. What kind of strength did he have? What kind of glory did he have? Of course, she wanted to start anew with Jiang Tian. Compared to Jiang Tian, Xia Miao, who was so scared that she peed in her pants, was like a big joke. However, Jiang Tian was like the stars in the sky, shining brightly yet so far away that she could only look up at him. When did that happen? Don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao forced a smile as she tried to suppress her emotions. She seemed as if she didn't care at all, but her nose and the corners of her eyes were sore, and she couldn't hold back her tears. "I didn't expect him to be so powerful. If he can do well in the Gan province, I'm afraid there aren't many people in Jinling who can suppress him." Xia Miao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood up shakily. His eyes were filled with fear and confusion. There was no hatred or anger in his heart, only endless fear and shock. In the Hall of Brotherhood, many martial arts experts were discussing how to get rid of Jiang Tian. "Jiang Bei Master Kong here." Suddenly, along with the sound of welcoming guests, a figure walked in lazily with his hands behind his back. In an instant, the hall became silent as if a sponge had sucked in all the sound. Everyone turned their heads in unison and looked at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was wearing a casual outfit and looked like he was in his 20s. His height and appearance were average, and he was just a little handsome. He couldn't be found in a crowd. Immediately, a cultivator with a lower cultivation base whispered, "So this is Jiang Taichu? I don't see anything strange about him." On the other hand, the Hong family of Yi Province, the Mo family of Lingnan, the Tang sect of Central Shu, the Golden Blade Wang family of Luoyang, and Zhang Wendao all had gloomy expressions as they gnashed their teeth and stared at Jiang Tian with gazes as sharp as blades. Jiang Tian turned a blind eye to them. He cupped his fists and smiled. I heard that the Martial Arts Alliance is gathering all the martial arts experts in the world for a meeting. Although I don't claim to be an expert, I have a favor to ask of my fellow martial artists. Please forgive me for coming so abruptly. As he spoke, he bowed slightly. His posture was elegant and polite. The more respectful Jiang Tian was, the more everyone was sure that he was up to something. Their eyes flashed as they looked at each other. Some of them were already on guard and secretly channeling their skills. Wei Feilong cupped his fists and said, "Master Kong, sit." A disciple brought a chair over and put it down. It was facing all the martial artists. If Jiang Tian sat down, he would be like a criminal on trial. Jiang Tian frowned but didn't say anything. He sat down gently with Tang Linglong and Ghost Kick standing behind him. Wei Feilong planned to use peaceful means before resorting to force. He smiled amiably and said, "Master Kong, why are you here? I heard that your talent is amazing and your cultivation is powerful. You must be here for the position of the Martial Arts Alliance's president." As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Jiang Tian to see how he would answer. As long as he showed the slightest intention, he would be scolded and humiliated. If it was in the past, Jiang Tian would probably scoff. However, today, he was here to ask about the D-daughter flower so that Qinger could embark on the path of cultivation. He didn't want to make their relationship too tense. He shook his head gently and said politely, "President Wei, you must be joking. I'm just a nobody. My cultivation is too weak, my status is low, and my knowledge is shallow. How would I dare to covet the position of the Martial Arts Alliance's president?" Wei Feilong relaxed slightly and said with a smile, "Then Master Kong, why are you here?" Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Ghost Kick slowly walked out and distributed the D-daughter flowers, rendering to everyone. Jiang Tian looked around at everyone and said with a faint smile, "I'm looking for a spirit herb called the D-daughter flower. Of course, it might have another name. In short, it looks like this." Wei Feilong was greatly surprised. Originally, at the Martial Arts Alliance conference, there would be people exchanging cultivation methods, secret manuals, spirit herbs, and other cultivation resources. It was extremely common. However, everyone was trying to kill Kong Teichu. This guy who had killed countless people and angered gods actually took the initiative to come to their door. It was unbelievable. He looked up and down at the D-daughter flower's rendering. Even with his vast knowledge, he had never seen or heard of such a thing. Jiang Tian said sincerely, "Fellow martial artists and heroes, if there is, I am willing to repay you with a large sum of money, or any other conditions, I can agree to them." Swish. A martial artist in the crowd laughed disdainfully and said, "Master Kong, you sure talk big. I'm at the peak of Iron Body. I want to step into the transcendent state within 3 months. Can you help me do that? What's so difficult about that? If you have it, I can help you realize your dream." Jiang Tian picked up his tea and took a sip, smiling faintly. Swish. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They all felt that this person had gone crazy. The gap between the iron body and the transcendent state was thousands of miles. It was like a natural chasm. Even if one cultivated hard for 20 years, it would be difficult to reach it. However, Jiang Tian shamelessly said that he could achieve a breakthrough in 3 months. Even if he was a transcendent master, he didn't have the ability to do so. After a while, many people started to look down on Jiang Tian a little. This person didn't know martial arts at all. He was just fishing for fame. One had to know that the more profound one was in martial arts, the more they should know the difficulty of martial arts cultivation and the more modest and cautious they should be. Could it be that his valiant battle achievements were all based on another story, and it was just a rumor? "Master Kong, if I have it, I'd like to sell it to you for 10 billion. Can you do it?" Someone joked. 10 billion? No problem. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and nodded. He was the conqueror of Lingnan. With one sentence, someone would obediently send the money to him. He could also make the same amount of money in a few days by refining grand medicine and making Dharma artifacts. Swish. Many people laughed, their faces full of disdain. "May I ask if you are a money printing machine? How can you have so much money? Even if you have so much money, You are willing to give it all away for a stalk of herb. How shameless! Who knew that Jiang Tian didn't care about worldly wealth? In order to help his beloved wife embark on the road of cultivation, even if it was 100 billion or a trillion, Jiang Tian wouldn't care, let alone 10 billion. Jiang Tian observed everyone's expressions and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He said lightly, "A gentleman doesn't joke. What I said today is still valid. As long as you have this new flower, I'll agree to any condition, whether it's 10 billion or nurturing you into a transcendent master." Then he stood up and said lightly, "Please help me pass on this message. If I get it, I'll definitely reward you handsomely. If you don't have it, then I won't take advantage of you. I'll take my leave first." Seeing him turn around and leave, everyone was anxious. Wei Feilong stood up and said, "Master Kong, please wait. Is there anything else?" Jiang Tian turned around and asked. Wei Feilong smiled bitterly and said, "Master Kong, I know your cultivation is high, but you have killed too many people. It's not a good thing to set off a storm of blood in the Jianghu. Master Kong, please reflect on your mistakes and don't walk in the Jianghu anymore to avoid stirring up disputes." Wei Feilong's personality was honest and gentle, so his words were polite. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "President Wei's words are reasonable. As long as others don't send their heads to me, I won't be willing to make a move." "Send their heads to you? What are you talking about? Did you kill people who deserved to be killed?" Zhang Mingli was so angry that her face turned pale. She couldn't bear it anymore. She stood up and pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted. Originally, she was also shocked when she saw Jiang Tian, but today all the heroes of the world were here, so she had confidence. "Yes." Jiang Tian nodded and said, "Why did they deserve to be killed? What are their crimes? You have to give us an explanation." Zhang Mingli looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and sneered. "Who do you think you are? You're just a little girl with an iron body cultivation, and you want me to give you an explanation?" Jiang Tian sneered, then looked around at everyone and said, "I, Kong Teichu, do things naturally and naturally. I don't need to explain to you." Zhang Mingli was speechless from Jiang Tian's words, and her momentum had weakened. Indeed, in terms of status and strength, she was not qualified to talk to Jiang Tian. "Kong Teichu, you've gone too far. Don't you know that you've killed innocent people? Apologize to the heroes of the world." Seeing Jiang Tian being so arrogant, many martial artists of Lingnan Mo clan, Yi Province Hong clan, and Luoyang Golden Blade Wang clan were enraged. They pointed at Jiang Tian and said angrily, "What if I don't apologize?" Jiang Tian's mouth curved into a disdainful smile. He glanced at the crowd and said slowly, "What do you want?" Everyone was stunned. They never thought that Jiang Tian could be so strong in front of dozens of martial artists. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said with a cold look in his eyes, "Everyone is gathered here today to discuss how to deal with this Jiang. How could I not know about it? However, do you really think you have the ability?" Chapter 184. This kid is too arrogant. Even if he is a transcendent grandmaster, he shouldn't be so arrogant. After Jiang Tian walked away, Wei Feilong sighed with regret. Since he is so stubborn, then I can't be bothered with him. When old Grandmaster Hua comes, I will ask him to help me. Hearing this, everyone was jubilant. "Master, are we really going to stay here? What if they come for revenge? Let's go." On the way back to the residence, Tang Linglong said worriedly, "If they want to get rich, then let them get rich. I don't like money." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "It's revenge. Master, how can you still be in the mood to joke?" Tang Linglong beat her chest and stamped her feet, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Oh, revenge? Then I'll kill him." Jiang Tian shook his head indifferently and said lightly, "I can't leave anyway. I still have to find the princess flower for your master's wife." "Master, how did you find out that the mixed-race white man was talking just now?" Ghost Kick frowned and asked. "He used ventriloquism." Jiang Tian's face was calm. This kind of secret technique was done by moving the stomach and not the mouth at all. Of course, It could hide from ordinary martial artists. But how could it hide from Jiang Tian's eyes, who could see through things and had divine sense? For the next 2 days, Jiang Tian wandered around the martial arts gathering, chatting with martial artists and asking about the princess flower. Strange to say, many martial artists in the Hall of Brotherhood shouted at him, but in private, they were afraid of him and tried to please him. They hated and feared Jiang Tian. When there were many of them, they were fearless, but when facing Jiang Tian alone, fear took over and they did not dare to offend him. Sigh, martial artists are also human. Sometimes, it is for survival. In this regard, Jiang Tian shook his head and smiled bitterly. He asked many martial artists, but they did not provide any information about the princess flower. Regarding this, Jiang Tian was already mentally prepared and was not discouraged. But in fact, there were also many martial artists who hated Jiang Tian. They were waiting for Wuxia and Xianxia to rush over and kill Kong Teichu. It could be said that this martial arts gathering was filled with undercurrents and murderous intents. On the morning of the 3rd day, the atmosphere was clearly different. All the martial artists woke up early in the morning, their faces brimming with excitement, nervousness, anticipation, and uneasiness. Today, however, was the day that the single elimination tournament began, and the chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance would be decided. Wuxia and Xianxia would also be arriving on this day. Master, let's go take a look and see what level these grandmasters are at. Tang Linglong tugged at Jiang Tian's sleeve. What's there to see? You can go. Jiang Tian shook his head disinterestedly. Tang Linglong agreed. Her master had defeated Mo Haoxiong and Hong Tianzhao with a snap of his fingers. Which grandmaster in the world could catch her master's eye? But she wanted to broaden her horizons, so she left the courtyard and followed the flow of people to the lakeside side of the manor. The entire water manor and a large part of Poyang Lake were cordoned off. Many police officers were patrolling around the water manor or on speedboats. They separated the martial artists from the secular world and strictly forbade the secular people from getting close. Looking at the license plates of the police cars, not only were there local police from Zhejiang, but there were also many from Hong City. It was obvious that the police of Gan Province were also taking this seriously. The manor near the lake had an open courtyard and an excellent view. It was 1 to 2 meters above the water and was used as the venue for the ceremony. There were colorful flags and banners, and many spectator seats were set up. Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankun, one on the left and the other on the right, were escorting a tall old man with a surging aura. He was sitting in the front row on an armchair, very conspicuous. The old man was wearing a long black robe and looked to be in his 70s. His hair and beard were white, but his eyes were sharp. Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankun, on the other hand, were originally people of noble status, extremely high seniority, and profound cultivation, but they were respectful and reverent to him, and treated him like a disciple. Behind them, there were many famous martial artists seated according to their ages and cultivations. There were dozens of internal force masters and a few transcendent grandmasters, let alone iron body cultivators. Who is that old man? Why do I see so many rich people bowing to him? Chu Mengyao exclaimed from the crowd outside the cordon. She looked tired. Lin Manong, Tang Bao, Lei Gang, Xia Miao, Yi Feng and a group of young people from Jin City stood beside him. Their status was too low and they didn't know any martial arts, so they were arranged to watch the ceremony. They didn't even have the right to sit. Zhongyuan Real Estate's chairman Hong Tao, Jiangnan Shipbuilding's chairman Lu, Tianwei Entertainment's chairman Zhao, these are all frequent guests on the Forbes rich list. And our Jinling martial arts expert Lei Gang's father Lei Ming, Teng Ba, stared fixedly at the old man with an extraordinary bearing, and she had an expression of disbelief as he recited the identities of those rich and powerful figures with great familiarity. These rich people were all famous in Wuxia. They were all worth tens of billions and were many times more powerful than House Chu and House Tang in Jin City. Yet now, he was prostrating himself before that old man, and was humbly greeting him. This was truly inconceivable. He should be one of those legendary martial artists. Lin Manong's beautiful eyes were sparkling, flickering with splendor. In her heart she was thinking, is Jiang Tian also this kind of expert? Do you think Jiang Tian is the same as them? Tang Bao suddenly pulled on Lin Monong's sleeve. Lin Monong was just a normal person. She didn't know that much. She smiled. I don't know. But Zhao Yuankuan respects Jiang Tian so much, even calling him master. He should be very strong. How's that possible? Meng Yao thought about it the whole night and didn't sleep a wink. She finally came to a conclusion. Jiang Tian might know a bit about martial arts, but he's definitely not some master. He's just a nobody. Yes, in her eyes, Jiang Tian was a useless piece of trash. He didn't attend any classes in university, slept in class all day, failed all his exams, and didn't know anything about business. All he knew was picking up girls and fighting. His body was extremely weak too. He spent all his time in internet cafes and bars, picking up girls and instant noodles. How could he be a master? But Zhao Yuankuan respects him a lot. Tang Bao said weakly. She didn't like Jiang Tian, but seeing Jiang Tian suppress Lei Gang, Xia Miao, and Zhao Hao, she couldn't accept it, but she could vaguely feel that Jiang Tian was no ordinary person. What's so strange about that? Meng Yao said coldly. Don't forget that House Jiang is a medical family, and Jiang Changging is a famous doctor in Jinling. People in Wulin get hurt all the time. Maybe Zhao Yuankuan was treated by Jiang Tian before, and that's why Zhao Yuankuan gave Jiang Tian face. That's possible. She had always been unable to accept the fact that Jiang Tian had become strong. It was like a pearl covered in dust, but after being lightly rubbed, it became extremely radiant and dazzling, causing her to not have the courage to look directly at it. She'd tossed and turned in bed last night, racking her brains to come up with a reasonable explanation. He definitely doesn't have the ability to do that himself. Meng Yao said confidently. On the side, Lei Gang wanted to say something, but stopped. Jiang Tian had to be at the Grandmaster level to defeat Zhao Hao. But Xia Miao was there as well, and he was Jiang Tian's love rival. As his bro, he couldn't really say anything about Jiang Tian's strength. So House Jiang isn't as bad as the rumors say. Tang Bao said innocently. Even if he relies on his family, that's nothing. Xia Miao and Lei Gang both rely on their families. Meng Yao sis, Xia Miao really isn't as good as Jiang Tian. Don't say that, it's impossible between us. Meng Yao was irritated at the mention of Jiang Tian's name. Her heart was filled with complicated feelings, and she felt very uncomfortable. Northwest Grandmaster Li Tuofeng is here to watch the ceremony. Following a loud announcement, a group of people suddenly came from the manor to the venue of the ceremony. This old man was wearing a sheepskin jacket, and a white towel was tied around his head. He was skinny and his skin was dark. He had a copper pipe in his hand, and he looked like an old farmer. Old Grandmaster Li, I didn't expect you to come. Old Grandmaster Li, how have you been? Old Li, I've wanted to pay my respects to you for a long time, but I never had the chance to. However, many of the tycoons present scrambled to stand up. They bowed respectfully and cupped their fists, greeting him in such a manner. Old Hero Li, you're finally here. Sorry for not coming out to welcome you. Even Wei Feilong and Zhao Yuankuan came out to welcome him, their faces full of joy. Of all the tycoons, only Huaqing Tian didn't come out to welcome him, but he stood up and cupped his fist from afar. What's so strange about this old man? He looks like he's very poor. His old leather jacket is completely bald. Tang Bao said innocently. Little girl, be careful with your words. This is a martial Dao grandmaster. An old man said in a deep voice from the cordon. How did you hear me? Tang Bao was shocked. I'm more than 10 meters away from this old man, and I purposely lowered my voice. How did he hear me? I'm an internal strength cultivator, and my ears can hear ants fighting. What's this distance? The old man saw Tang Bao's innocent and cute face, so he said a few more words. Grandpa, what are you talking about? Martial Dao grandmasters? Tang Bao asked curiously. You're not martial artists? Whose children are you? How did you get in? The old man frowned and asked solemnly. Meng Yao and Tang Bao's family wealth was only a few hundred million, and they didn't have the right to come in. They were brought in by Jiang Tian, but Tang Bao was worried that Jiang Tian wouldn't be able to control the old man, so she smiled and said, "Oh, we're disciples of Jinling's Lei Dojo." Lei Gang hurriedly cupped his fist and bowed. "Senior, Lei Ming is my father, and these are my senior and junior brothers. Oh, Lei Ming. I think he's the cannon fist master. Has he broken through to the peak of Iron Body?" The old man clearly didn't know Lei Ming well, and he only remembered after hesitating for a long time. "Oh, thanks to Grandpa, he just reached the peak of Iron Body last year," Lei Gang said respectfully. "Oh, that's rare." The old man nodded nonchalantly, then said in surprise, "But your senior and junior brothers are too weak. They don't even know about martial Dao grandmasters. Didn't your father tell them?" Chapter 185. Master, he is. Everyone chuckled in shame, not knowing how to answer. Seeing how handsome and adorable they were, the old man smiled and said, "Lei Ming probably thought that you would never reach the Transcendent Grandmaster level, so he didn't tell you. A Transcendent Grandmaster is a martial arts overlord who has reached the Transcendent state. They can condense Qi into weapons and control objects with Qi. They can hurt people from 100 meters away, and they are not even afraid of bullets." The old man sighed and explained. "What? A Transcendent Grandmaster is that powerful? If he can't be killed by bullets, is he still human?" Everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. This was too unbelievable. It was like the special effects in Hollywood blockbusters. It didn't seem real at all. So the Lei family is not the top martial artists. Even Lin Manong, who knew a little about martial arts, couldn't believe it. Compared to these immortal-like characters, Lei Gang was only strong enough to be able to break bricks and stones with a kick. Bullets are nothing. 20 years ago, Yi Zhantian, the god of war in the army, fought with Xiao Bin, a veteran Transcendent Grandmaster in the Northwest. The old man smiled proudly and said, Yi Zhantian had just finished his battle with Lin Zhenyu and was severely injured. In desperation, he could only ask the military to bombard him with artillery. Guess what happened? What else? He died. Everyone asked. Wouldn't he have been reduced to a pile of meat after being bombarded by artillery? I heard that Xiaobin was only injured and spat out blood. He didn't die. Instead, he escaped to the icy plains of Siberia. The old man sighed and said with a long sigh. What the? When everyone heard this, they were dumbstruck and petrified on the spot. Li Camelfong may not look like much, but he is actually very powerful in the Northwest. The old man looked at Li Tuofeng, who was sitting in the front row with reverence, and said in a deep voice, back then, when he was traveling on the grassland of Inner Mongolia, he once killed hundreds of wild wolves by himself. At that time, he was only 30 years old. Even this little old man is so powerful? Tang Bao said with a trembling voice. Just as the old man was about to say something, Li Tuofeng had finished greeting everyone present. Wei Feilong, who was in the front row, stood up and glanced around with a smile. Thank you, fellow martial artists from all over the world, as well as friends from the secular world who support the development of martial arts. His speech and thanks were well thought of. Then he puffed out his chest and said, Today is the old man's last day as the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. Right after that, we will decide the new chief of the Martial Arts Alliance through a challenge tournament. Where's the arena? Why don't I see an arena? Tang Bao was astonished and looked around. Those who are going to fight today are all Transcendent Grandmasters. Ordinary martial artists are not qualified to be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. The old man opened his mouth to explain again. Once a Transcendent Grandmaster made a move, it would be earth-shattering. Ordinary arenas, dojos, or stadiums would not be able to withstand the devastation of a Transcendent Grandmaster. It'll be torn down in minutes. What? So powerful? Everyone felt like they were dreaming when they heard that. Yeah, my dad only has an iron body, but I saw with my own eyes that he smashed the railing of the arena into pieces with one punch. Lei Gang said proudly. Then where did they fight? Tang Bao turned into a curious child again. Do you see that? That's Shu Mountain. The old man pointed at a mountain peak above the water and said lightly. Shu Mountain, also known as Shu Mountain Island, was named because it looked like a shoe left behind by a ferry in Poyang Lake. It was only a few kilometers away from the mouth of the Yangtze River from Poyang Lake and was opposite Small Lonely Mountain in the Yangtze River. Therefore, Shu Mountain was also known as Big Lonely Mountain. Big Lonely Mountain is far away from Small Lonely Mountain. The moon shines on Dongting to return to the passenger boat. That was a famous line used by a Tang Dynasty poet to describe Shu Mountain. Shu Mountain was shaped like a shoe. It was low at the front and high at the back. It was about 500 meters long and 200 meters wide. The highest point was 90 meters above sea level. Blue waves surged around it and there were 3 cliffs. Only the northwest corner could anchor a boat. Shu Mountain was about 70 meters above the surface of the lake and had a circumference of 100 meters. It was tall and beautiful and was known as the Immortal Island of Prenglai in ancient times. The mountain was filled with tall pine trees and lush greenery. There was a beautiful ancient building in the forest, the Heavenly Flower Palace. The palace was majestic, and the statues were splendid. The sound of the morning bells and drums and the Sanskrit music made people feel like they were floating in the clouds. Fight on this? This is a scenic area? Tang Bao said in a daze. Hee, grandmasters are like dragons. It's still a grand occasion even if they destroy the scenic area. The old man chuckled. Mount Song is famous both at home and abroad because of Shaolin. Mount Hua is remembered because of the swordsmanship of the predecessors. Mount Shu is also famous because of the mystical legends of sword immortals. This old man dares to guarantee that after this battle, many people will come to pay their respects to the ruins. He was fascinated and said with deep emotion, the ancient martial artists walked on the heavens and earth and practiced their martial arts in the Great Lake. Since ancient times, militarists have always fought over Poyang Lake, which stretches as far as the eye can see. Only then can we show the breadth of mind and bearing of martial artists. After the dragon and lion dance performance, Wei Feilong got up again and looked around with a smile. You are all famous martial arts heroes. If anyone wants to be the champion and is willing to take over my position, just go ahead and climb the Shu Mountain. Seeing Wei Feilong's gaze, Hong Hichu quickly said, We give up. I admit defeat. Only a transcendent grandmaster can take on the role of the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. How dare we challenge him? Yeah, we don't dare to challenge him. We'll wait for the battle between the grandmasters. The martial artists present stood up and bowed to the transcendent grandmasters with reverence in their eyes. Hua Xia's martial arts cultivation level was very strict. Normally, a transcendent grandmaster could take on 100 internal force or iron body cultivators at once and kill them with a snap of his fingers. However, challenging a transcendent grandmaster with the iron body internal force was like an ant trying to shake a tree. It was ridiculous. They attended the martial arts gathering to build connections and discuss the plan to kill Jiang Tian. They also wanted to broaden their horizons. However, they would never dare to compete for the position of the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. Grandmasters, please make your move. Grandmasters, please make your move. In a moment, many martial artists scrambled to get up and shouted. Their voices became louder and louder, converging into a torrent that had the power to soar into the sky. The momentum was astonishing. They know the terrifying power of a grandmaster. You're welcome. Thank you. The 3 older grandmasters, Hua Qingtian, Zhao Yuankuan, Li Tuofeng and a few middle-aged grandmasters, were not surprised at all. They smiled proudly and nodded slightly. Who will go on the stage first? Wei Feilong smiled in response. He looked at the grandmasters and said, It seems that the position of the president of the Martial Arts Alliance will be decided among the few of you. I'm afraid the result will be out today. Elder Hua's presence is like the sun and moon in the sky. We wouldn't dare to compete. If it were up to me, I'd like to invite Elder Hua to be the president. We will definitely support it. Zhao Yuankuan chuckled. Yeah. Elder Hua is our senior. Wei Feilong agreed. The other grandmasters also nodded in agreement. Only Li Tuofeng snorted and didn't say anything. You all think too highly of an old man. Hu Qingnan cupped his fists and smiled. I'm old and weak. I'm afraid I won't be able to do it. Elder Hua, you're a veteran grandmaster. You're on par with Yi Zhantian, the god of war. If you don't do it, who will? As the saying goes, the old steed has great ambitions. You have the hope of reaching the immortal state. You're still young. Everyone knew that he was being courteous, so they didn't take it to heart. They all started to flatter him. Flattery flew up and down, and the flattery was a riot of colors. At this time, Hong Junshan of Yi Province stood up shakily and cupped his fists. Elder Hua, you should be the president and uphold justice. My son was brutally killed by Kong Teichu. Kong Teichu is in the village. He's so arrogant. My son was also beaten by him until he vomited blood. Zhao Yuankuan added. This man is crazy and cruel. This old man has heard about him. Don't worry, this old man will kill this scourge and get rid of this public nuisance for the martial arts world of Huaxia. Hu Qingtian's face was full of arrogance. His eyes were cold and he said in a deep voice, ask that Jiang Taichu to come here. I want to ask him what he is relying on to dare to be the enemy of the entire martial arts world and be the only man in the world. At this time, his powerful aura suppressed everyone. His whole body was like an unsheathed sword, showing its sharpness. Many of the martial artists were out of breath, and it was only after he stopped speaking for 3 seconds that they were able to breathe again. They couldn't help but feel uneasy, and their eyes were filled with fear. A veteran grandmaster was indeed a grandmaster. He was too powerful. This Hu Qingtian also wants to deal with master. In the crowd, Tang Linglong was shocked. Her pretty face changed color. Suddenly, Li Tuofeng sneered and scratched his head. He said coldly, Brother Hua, you haven't become the president of the Martial Arts Alliance yet, and you're already giving orders. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world? Everyone was stunned. Li Tuofeng was obviously not convinced, but no one dared to say anything. After all, Hu Qingtian was ranked 3rd on the divine list, and Li Tuofeng was ranked 5th. Their cultivations were about the same. He was indeed qualified to compete. Both of them were top-notch martial artists. When the gods fought, the mortals would shut up. No one had the right to say anything. Hu Qingtian's face darkened. His eyes turned cold. He said in a low voice, Old camel, you're right. Don't meddle when you're not in the position. It seems like you think that this old man can't take on the responsibility of being the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. That's good. We haven't fought in a long time. You go up Big Lonely Mountain first. Hu Qingtian, your mouth is full of crap. You don't have the bearing of a master at all. Come, let's fight. Li Tuofeng hated it when people mocked his disability. Hearing this, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. With a roar, he was already above the lake like a gust of wind. What's wrong with this old man? Is he going to commit suicide by jumping into the lake? Tang Bao exclaimed. The moment Li Tuofeng's feet touched the surface of the water, he jumped up like a swallow and shot dozens of meters away. Just like that, he was like a nimble swallow. He jumped up and down on the surface of the water. In a breath's time, he climbed up Shu Mountain. How is this possible? He just walked over the water like that. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Lin Manong, Chu Mengyao, Tang Bao, and the rest of the ordinary people were shocked. Their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. They were dizzy, and their hearts were in a daze. Chapter 186. Kong Teichu, you've committed a heinous crime. We're discussing how to capture you and cut you into pieces. Since you've delivered yourself to us, that's great. Kill yourself to pay tribute to the souls of those martial arts heroes in heaven. Clang. Hong Junshan pulled out a saber and threw it in front of Jiang Tian, scolding him angrily. Tang Linglong couldn't take it anymore. She took a step forward and said coldly, Humph, none of the people my master killed was a hero. They were all cowards and evil dogs. Little girl, how dare you talk nonsense? Do you want to die? Yeah, a little kid dares to talk nonsense about the martial arts heroes in the world. You're courting death. If I were your parent, I would have killed you with a slap. Look, cowards and evil dogs. How unpleasant. Many martial artists were furious. They pointed at Tang Linglong and shouted angrily. The scene was noisy. Shut up. Tang Linglong's face turned cold. She raised her eyebrows and shouted softly. Her voice was like a dragon's roar and demon's roar, shaking the eardrums of everyone. Their eyes were filled with fear and they quieted down. Where did this girl come from? Why is her aura so strong? Many martial artists present exclaimed in surprise. She seems to be Tang Guizhu's granddaughter. But she wasn't a martial artist before. I didn't see her that powerful. Some sharp-eyed martial artists recognized her, but they felt even more incredulous and surprised. Tang Linglong wasn't as indifferent as Jiang Tian, who couldn't be bothered to explain everything. Instead, she had a sharp tongue and a glib tongue. In addition, she looked down on these people, so how could she keep her mouth shut? She immediately said quickly, "Don't you believe me? That bastard Hong Tianzhao was the one who set me up and poisoned me. I wanted to steal my master's elixirs and treasures. Why couldn't my master resist? Should he stretch out his neck and let him kill him? His life is a life, but my master's life is not a life." This. Hong Junshan was speechless. He looked embarrassed and didn't know how to explain. What about Wei Shuofeng? Old Immortal Wei is an otherworldly expert. Don't tell me you should kill him? Zhang Mingli asked again. Tang Linglong smiled in disdain and said, that Wei Shuofeng is even worse. He couldn't compete for business, so he used his spells to raise ghosts in my family's Crouching Dragon Mountain villa, causing my grandfather to fall ill. Later on, he sent his disciples to control the people of Jiangbei. My master came to ask for an explanation and agreed to a duel. Chao Shixiang from the military was there as a witness. His skills were inferior and he was killed by my master. Can you blame my master? Just as Mo Haoxiong's descendants were about to retort, Tang Linglong had already taken care of them. She sneered. My master was originally looking for Wei Shuofeng to seek justice, but Mo Haoxiong thought that his cultivation was strong enough to suppress others, so he meddled in other people's business and insisted on attacking my master. Isn't this just meddling in other people's business? He deserved to die. Why are you speaking so harshly? Don't you have any sympathy for a girl? Everyone from the Mo clan was so angry that their faces turned white. However, Tang Linglong's words hit the nail on the head. Their rebuttal seemed so weak and feeble. I want to ask everyone here, which one of you hasn't killed before? Tang Linglong suddenly asked coldly. For a moment, the hall was silent. Everyone present was silent and looked awkward. Chivalrous people used martial arts to break the rules. Although the Long Formation and the Martial Arts Alliance were established in the 90s and began to whip the world and maintain the order of martial arts, the world was much more stable. However, true martial arts were not about strengthening the body or treating people to meals. It was about killing people. The dragon-slaying technique was a fight to the death. Whether it was a fight for benefits, a vendetta in the Jianghu, or a spar, no matter the reason, everyone present had never hurt or killed someone who hadn't taken a few lives on their hands. However, if the person who was killed was also a martial artist, his family and friends would usually think that he was not skilled enough and admit that he was unlucky. They would not report it to the authorities. As the saying went, if the people did not report it, the authorities would not investigate. To put it bluntly, whether it was the Long Formation or the Martial Arts Alliance, what they really protected were the ordinary people in the secular world. They did not allow martial artists to hurt ordinary people. As for the fights between martial artists, unless innocent people were hurt, they would usually turn a blind eye. If my master is guilty, then everyone here is guilty. Tang Linglong said coldly, if my master is guilty and is to be punished, then everyone must be treated the same. No exceptions. Her voice was like the sound of a sword, with a faint sound of metal and stone. It shook everyone's eardrums. If you think that you are innocent and have never killed anyone, then go ahead and do it to my master. After she finished speaking, the hall was dead silent. Many martial artists were speechless and did not know how to refute. Actually, I have just stepped into martial arts. There are still many rules that I don't know. Jiang Tian's face was calm and composed. He smiled lazily and said, I want to ask everyone here, if I want to kill you, can you not resist? Of course I have to resist. No matter how strong you are, even if you are Yi Zhantian, I still have to resist. A bad-tempered martial artist in the audience slammed the table and roared loudly. There must be something wrong with your brain. Local bully is indeed local bully. You are so retarded. All the martial artists looked at him gloomily and cursed in their hearts. Sigh, we have all been led into a ditch by Kong Teichu. It's really, some martial artists sighed and shook their heads helplessly. This martial artist was Wei Feilong's youngest son, Wei Sanduo. People called him local bully. He was tall and muscular. He should be an iron body cultivator. However, his eyes were a little dazed, as if they could not focus. His brain was not very good. Yes, this is a principle that even a 3-year-old child knows. Don't you all know? Jiang Tian looked at Wei Sanduo with admiration. The latter grinned and gave Jiang Tian a simple and honest smile. Jiang Tian was calm and unruffled in the midst of chaos as he said unhurriedly, They want to kill me, so of course I have to retaliate. Kong Teichu, don't try to quibble. Don't you know the principle of being kind to others and not going overboard? In short, since your debut, you have been crazy and set off a storm of blood everywhere. Now, President Wei just wants you to bow your head and apologize because he thinks you are a talent. But you are not even willing to accept this. Do you want to be the enemy of all the martial artists in the world? Hong Junshan shouted as he stood up, pointing at Jiang Tian with a furious expression. He did not want to argue with Jiang Tian. This sentence was rather heart-wrenching. He directly opposed Jiang Tian and Wei Feilong, the martial arts alliance, and the heroes of the world. It could be said that he was roasting Jiang Tian on a fire. So what if I am the enemy of the world? Jiang Tian smiled lazily and said, I will stay in Poyang Manor for a few days and wait for everyone to come and take revenge. As soon as these words came out, the audience fell into a dead silence. This kid is too arrogant. Everyone's face changed drastically and they couldn't believe it. Even Wei Feilong's face became very ugly. He'd intended to make Jiang Tian lower his head and admit his mistake to give everyone a way out and put an end to this dispute. But he'd never imagined that Jiang Tian actually didn't know when to back down and failed to live up to his painstaking efforts and insisted on going head-on against him, causing him to be stuck in the middle and in a difficult position. Since you don't want to give me face, then I won't care about you and let you die on your own. Fei Kongtichu, how dare you? If you have the guts, then stay here. This old man will be the first one to come after you. Jiang Tian's words ignited Hong Junshan's anger. Hong Junshan's beard fluttered in the air as he roared. Master Kong, you are too reckless. Even if you are a transcendent master, do you think you can handle all the heroes of the world? Zhang Wendao said with a cold smile. Humph, after the challenge tournament, we will be free to kill you. Mo Haoxiong's son gritted his teeth. Did you see that? This is his true colors. He is determined to be the enemy of the world. Is this how he looks down on the world's martial arts? How can he be so arrogant and insufferably arrogant? Sigh, even if he has reached the initial transcendent state at such a young age, it is already rare. However, he doesn't know that the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. In the face of so many overlords, even Yi Zhantian would not be so arrogant and rude. Yeah, this kind of arrogant and domineering personality will not go far. He is tired of living. For a time, many cultivators shouted angrily, some shook their heads and sighed regretfully, some even rolled up their sleeves, causing the Hall of Brotherhood to be filled with noise and chaos. Everyone stop making noise. Wei Feilong rose to his feet and gestured for everyone to quiet down. When everyone had quieted down, an old voice suddenly rang out, Jiang Taichu, you sure talk big. You're not afraid of the whole world being your enemy. Dare I ask, aren't you afraid of Lin Zhenyu? You killed his disciple, Xing Shanhu, and he is on his way. You will be scared to death. It was the same voice again. "Shut up," Jiang Tian sneered. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed with his finger. With a swish, a wind blade tore through the air. Among the crowd, a man saw Jiang Tian raise his hand and was about to run away. However, before he could react, the wind blade had already reached him. With a sharp sound, the man's neck was cut off. Blood spurted a few meters high and his head rolled to the ground. "Isn't that Li Ling, the boxer of Hong? Kong Teichu, how can you kill innocent people like this?" Wei Feilong slammed the table angrily. He was a peaceful person, but Jiang Tian killed people in front of him. Even if he was made of mud, he could not hold back his anger. "He is not Li Ling." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. He is in disguise. Look at his face." Suddenly, Wei Sanduo exclaimed. Everyone who was glaring at Jiang Tian turned to look at him after hearing his words. The man's face cracked, revealing his real face. He was a blonde foreigner. He is Lin Zhenyu's disciple, Xing Shanhu's junior brother, the leader of the California branch, Hanks. Someone who was familiar with overseas martial arts exclaimed. This foreigner didn't say anything from the beginning to the end. We didn't notice anything, so how did he? His hearing is amazing. He must have reached the qi condensation stage. I don't know if he has reached the phenomenal state or not, but he must have reached the transcendent state. By then, the way they looked at Jiang Tian had changed. There was fear in their eyes. Although they were angry at Jiang Tian, they were still suspicious of Jiang Tian's transcendent state cultivation. After all, no one in Wuxia had reached the transcendent state before the age of 30. However, when they saw Jiang Tian's wind blade, they no longer had any doubts. "Very well, I will wait for you to come and take revenge." After saying that, Jiang Tian calmly walked out of the door and walked away as if he was taking a stroll in the park. Chapter 187. With a boom, the palm hit Li Camel Fong. He flew out like a rag doll. He fell to the ground and spat out blood, unable to get up. His clothes were burned, his skin was torn, and blood was flowing. What was even more strange was that his skin was black and full of big blisters as if he had been roasted. He looks like he has been burned. What happened? Many martial artists felt chills run down their spines as their faces turned as white as paper. This scene was simply too shocking. Martial artists could not avoid killing each other, and they were all vicious and merciless people. But such a tragic way of killing people made their hearts tremble with fear. What kind of demonic art is this? It is so hot. Li Camel Fong raised his head and asked with blood in his mouth. He was badly burned. Even if he was sent to the hospital right now, he would not be able to recover. "I will let you know when you die." The old man sat in the volcano of the Demon Island for 20 years, absorbing the energy and fire poison in the magma day and night for my use. I have already cultivated the extreme heat breath. Lin Zhenyu stood proudly with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Li Camel Fong as if he was looking at an ant. 20 years of absorbing the fire poison in the magma? You have been through this kind of torture? Li Camel Fong was shocked. Then he showed some admiration and relief. He sighed weakly and said, "Sure enough, if you want to pursue the supreme martial arts, you have to go through the torture and suffering that ordinary people can't bear." Today, the old man lost without complaint. Then his head tilted and he died. Li Camel Fong, a martial arts hero in the Northwest, a grandmaster in the transcendent state, 5th on the divine list, dead. Everyone was shocked. The whole place was silent. Everyone stared at the peerless and aloof figure on the Shu Mountain with fear in their eyes. Their hearts were in a state of turmoil. Even when Lin Zhenyu defeated Wuxia, he was only in the top 10 of the divine list. He should be on par with Li Camel Fong. Even if he was stronger than Li Camel Fong, it would take a long and hard battle to kill him. But now, Lin Zhenyu only used a saber and a palm to kill Li Camel Fong in 2 moves. This was clearly an instant kill. The strength that Lin Zhenyu displayed, everyone was already unable to guess. Most likely, he was merely a step away from the deity realm. To absorb the fire poison of the magma, He actually thought of such a crafty and ruthless cultivation method. He has opened up a new path, comparable to cultivating formless power. This is going to be difficult. Zhao Yuankuan and Wei Feilong gnashed their teeth in hatred, but there was fear in their eyes. There was nothing they could do. Sigh, who would have thought that after 20 years of seclusion he would actually cultivate such a miraculous technique? I'm afraid that even the god of war Yi Zhantian would not be able to defeat him easily. Even Hu Qingtian was hesitant. His expression was solemn and his eyes flickered. He was deeply moved. None of them had the confidence to defeat Lin Zhenyu. Everyone, since the position of Alliance Master will be decided in the single elimination tournament, although this old man is not talented, I would like to learn from the experts of the world. Lin Zhenyu's aura was surging like an abyss or an ocean. His entire body was like an abyss as he stood on top of a huge rock. Who wants to challenge this old man? Come on up. His voice was as loud as a bell. He was facing hundreds of martial arts experts alone, but he was not afraid at all. He was at ease, like a peerless warrior who could hold back 10,000 men. How can we let him be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance? If this news gets out, it will be the biggest disgrace to the martial arts of Wuxia. Many martial arts experts were panicking. Although Lin Zhenyu was a martial arts expert, he had close ties with the Big Circle, and the Big Circle had done all kinds of evil things. How could such a person be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance? It was the biggest joke in the world. But now, the biggest joke in the world was about to become a reality. Humph, Lin Zhenyu, what have you done to deserve to be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance? Hong Hichu stood up and shouted angrily. Don't talk about Jianghu justice with this kind of villain. Just hack him to death. Zhang Mingli also stood up and shouted loudly. Ha, little kid, you don't know your place. Lin Zhenyu sneered and flicked his fingers. With a few sizzling sounds, several red rays of light shot through the air and hit the people who were shouting. It hurts, it's so hot. What is this? I feel like my blood is going to dry up. Help! Hong Hichu, Zhang Mingli, and the others screamed. Some were on the verge of collapsing, some fell to the ground, and some were sent flying. They were rolling on the ground in pain. They were all martial arts experts, and their techniques were not ordinary. Moreover, the Shu Mountain was 1 or 2 kilometers away from the shore, but they could not dodge in time and were hit. Hichu! Mingli! What technique is this? Everyone screamed. Although it was the middle of winter, the faces of the people who had been hit were all red. The blood vessels in their bodies were bulging like earthworms, and they were emitting steam like white mist. Some of them couldn't even withstand the heat and had taken off their clothes. My fire poison Jin Qi is formed by condensing the fire poison Jin Qi from the depths of the magma. A single strand of the fire poison Jin Qi can burn a living person into ashes. Now, it is lurking in your body, and it will burn you every day. 7 days later, your blood vessels will dry up, and you will become a mummy. Lin Zhenyu explained calmly. After hearing this, everyone was petrified as if they were struck by lightning. This way of dying was simply too cruel. Only I can remove this fire poison with a secret technique. Even if you are a medical expert or a transcendent master, you can't do anything. Lin Zhenyu's expression was calm as he said slowly, only if you submit to me and respect me as your master will I spare your worthless lives. Sure enough, Zhao Yuankuan came to a wounded person and tried to use his true qi to remove the fire poison. But after a long time, there was no effect at all. He could not help but look at Wei Feilong and Hu Qingtian in despair and worry and shook his head. This villain is so strong and arrogant. At this time, a martial artist looked at Hu Qingtian and said anxiously, I'm afraid only Senior Hua can subdue this villain. Senior Hua, please suppress this villain Lin Zhenyu. The martial artists shouted one after another. Especially Zhang Wendao, Hong Junshan and other martial artists whose children were infected with the fire poison, they were even more anxious like ants on a hot pot. They looked at Hu Qingtian with pleading eyes, begging him to help. Okay, this old man will compare notes with Brother Lin. Qingtian also had no way to retreat at this time, so he could only stand up and say in a clear voice, "However, Brother Lin came from afar. Let's make peace. I want to use the method of a civil battle, just one palm. If I win, Brother Lin, please help these juniors remove the fire poison from their bodies, and then keep your promise and leave China. If I lose, this old man will withdraw from Jianghu, live in seclusion, and never interfere in martial arts again." In fact, Qingtian did not have the confidence to win at all. This villain cultivated a different kind of genuine qi and was abnormally fierce. If there was an accident in a fierce fight, he would probably die a violent death. And it just so happened that Hong Hichu and the others also needed Lin Jianyu's treatment. Qingtian went with the flow and only used the civil battle method to compete with palm strength and genuine qi. It sounded reasonable and natural. Brother Hua, this old man returned to Huaxia just to contribute to the revitalization of Huaxia's martial arts. I don't want to hurt anyone. It's good. Lin Jianyu nodded and agreed happily. He returned to Huaxia because he wanted to be the chairman of the Huaxia Martial Arts Alliance. Killing Li Tuofeng had already intimidated the heroes and successfully established his authority. There was no need for him to start a massacre and make too many enemies. Good, Brother Lin. It is really a great pleasure for this old man to be able to compete with you today, Qingtian shouted in a low voice. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he was. Like a torpedo splitting the water surface, he pushed away two monstrous white waves. In the blink of an eye, he came to the top of the Shu Mountain and stood face to face with Lin Jianyu. Good. Beautiful. Grandmaster Hua, good job. The audience on the shore roared with applause. The elder brother looked excited as if he had seen a god. Qingtian's movements were ghostly and his speed was close to the speed of sound. He was actually able to suppress Li Tuofeng and be on par with Lin Jianyu. The voices gradually faded, and finally, there was complete silence. Everyone held their breath and didn't dare to make a sound. They stared at the two people on the island. On one side was the old Grandmaster Qingtian, who was known as the Pillar of the Central Plains, and ranked second on the divine list. On the other side was the #1 Grandmaster overseas, Lin Jianyu, who had cultivated in the crater of the volcano for 20 years and brought fire into Huaxia. These two were like the Mount Tai and the North Star in martial arts. Everyone could only look up to them. And now, the two top experts were going to decide the outcome of the battle with a single palm strike. The air seemed to be stagnant. Everyone had difficulty breathing. Fascination, nervousness, worry, excitement, worship. All kinds of complicated expressions changed on everyone's faces. Grandmaster Lin, please. Qingtian's face was solemn and his eyes were cold. He held his hands together and bowed. Grandmaster Hua, please. Lin Jianyu also held his hands together and bowed. His face was calm. Sorry. Qingtian shouted in a low voice and stomped his feet. The huge Shu Mountain seemed to tremble. Akalanatha, suppress all demons. The 48,000 pores all over his body simultaneously spurted out streams of golden true energy. Behind him, a huge Buddha statue that was 10 feet tall actually appeared indistinctly. The Buddha statue was surrounded by flames. Its fangs were exposed and its face was full of anger. It looked very ferocious. The huge Buddha statue covered the sky with its 5 fingers. Like Mount Tai, it slammed down on Qingtian's head. This is the Akalanatha, the secret art of Shaolin. This kind of divine power is almost the same as the immortal state's verbal law. It can spit out true essence and interfere with reality. Zhao Yuankuan and the others were shocked. They said in a trembling voice, I didn't expect Grandmaster Hua to have mastered it. What a powerful force. Even Yi Zhantian would have to be cautious when facing the Akalanatha. Wei Feilong was also ecstatic. In other words, Lin Jianyu might not be able to withstand this move. Knowing that Lin Jianyu's evil art was not to be underestimated, Qingtian did not dare to be careless. He used his trump card as soon as he attacked. As a martial arts family in Zimadian of Yu Province, Qingtian had always been on good terms with Dengfeng Shaolin Temple. Wuxia and Xianxia was the master of Arhat Hall when he was 30 years old. He was once taught the Akalanatha by a reclusive monk in the back mountain of Shaolin Temple. The martial arts he learned were diverse, and he controlled dozens of techniques, but after thinking about it, the art of immovable wisdom was the most powerful. This move might not take Lin Zhenyu's life, but it would definitely cause him to be heavily injured, even crippling his cultivation and ending his path of martial arts. 6 changes of Kun Peng, Red Flame Golden Rock Transformation. At this critical moment, a powerful and cold voice suddenly sounded. Lin Zhenyu had also made his move. With a stern look in his eyes, he flipped his hands and slapped at the giant hand of the Buddha statue. At this moment, with a boom, a golden rock surrounded by flames flew out from his body. Chapter 188. Screech. The golden rock instantly grew larger and let out a sharp screech that numbed everyone's eardrums. Many of the mortals were bleeding from their 7 orifices. The golden rock's eyes flashed with a frightening cold light as if it had a mind of its own. Its wings were like the clouds in the sky, suppressing a large area of the void. As it flapped its wings, rolling hot winds swept in all directions. The rocks cracked, the grass and trees burned, and billowing black smoke rose. In the blink of an eye, the crimson golden rock had already waved its sharp giant claws at the Akalanatha Buddha statue. With a deafening bang, the water droplets on the surface of the lake shot up 10 meters into the air. It was as if several explosives had exploded at the same time. A huge mushroom cloud with a radius of 10 meters rose above the small island. Buildings collapsed and countless bricks and giant trees were sent flying in all directions. Then, with the island as the center, the scorching heat waves spread out like ripples, directly pushing out a kilometer away. Rumble. The surface of the lake seemed to be boiling as monstrous waves rose up. On the surface of the lake, a few police patrol speedboats were thrown high into the air and then fell heavily, capsizing instantly. After waiting for a full minute, the island and the lake finally calmed down. Everyone was splashed by the monstrous waves and many small fish and shrimps kept jumping under their feet. The island was still covered in smoke and dust. It was a blur and no one could see anything clearly. This is a battle between grandmasters. Forming the Akalanatha with a stomp of his feet and forming the crimson rock with a wave of his hand. This is too shocking. Many martial artists sighed with lingering fear. If they were on the battlefield, they would probably be torn into pieces. As for the mortals, their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. They felt dizzy and their minds were wandering. They felt that this trip had been worth it. Puan? Someone asked. Puan? That was the biggest question in everyone's mind. Suddenly, no one said a word and they all looked carefully at the small island. When the smoke and dust slowly dissipated, everything was settled. The crowd could vaguely make out that Wuxia and Xianxia and Lin Zhenyu were still standing face to face like 2 towering peaks. Old Senior Hua is still standing, he won. A martial artist was stunned for a moment, then raised his arms and shouted in joy. Master has won. Master has defeated the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. The many disciples of the Hua clan cheered and jumped up and down. Congratulations, Elder Hua. Congratulations, Elder Hua. Elder Hua's cultivation is strong. He deserves to be the president. From now on, Hua Xia will honor Elder Hua in the martial arts world. If you have any orders, we will not hesitate to go through fire and water to fulfill them. For a time, many martial artists and tycoons stood up and rushed to salute with their fists clasped, congratulating and praying to show their loyalty. Unexpectedly, a voice full of regret and bitterness was transmitted to the ears of everyone present. Today I, Wuxia, have lost. What? What's going on? All the martial artists widened their eyes and were dumbfounded. They were petrified on the spot. Elder Hua, this is a serious matter. Can you not be too modest? Wei Feilong's face was pale, and he said in a trembling voice, You and Lin Zhenyu are both standing and not injured. At most, it's a draw. How can you admit defeat? Sai, look at this. Wuxia rolled up the sleeve of his right arm. Crimson lines in the shape of flames intertwined on his arm. They were as red as blood, and it was a shocking sight. Everyone present was stunned. The old man's Akalanatha art suppressing 10,000 demons didn't hurt Lin Zhenyu at all. But his fire-type genuine qi invaded the old man's body. Although Huaqing Tian didn't want to admit it, he was a straightforward person. He smiled bitterly and sighed, "So, I lost." For a moment, the whole place was silent. Many martial artists lowered their heads like quails. No one dared to provoke him anymore. Even Wei Fei and Zhao Yuankuan lowered their heads. "And, Brother Lin, if I'm not wrong, you only used 50% of your cultivation." Huaqing Tian sighed deeply. His face gradually recovered its calmness, as if he had gone through hardships and now returned to the sunny sky. At this time, his heart was not without waves. This calmness was not easy to come by. "Elder Hua, you have a good eye. The Kuanpeng has 6 changes, and I only used the weakest, the first change." Lin Zhenyu smiled proudly. The people on the shore were even more frightened. Deep in their eyes, there was deep despair and sorrow. The simplest change of the Kuanpeng's 6 changes could suppress Huaqing Tian. Was he still human? If the 6 changes were used, who could resist it? Hearing this, Huaqing Tian's body trembled slightly. His face was dejected. He smiled bitterly and shook his head. He sighed in his heart, "I'm afraid that in the whole world, only he is qualified to compete with you." After pondering for a long time, Huaqing Tian recovered from the shock. He clasped his hands and said bitterly, "After 20 years of hard work, Great Grandmaster Lin is probably only 1 step away from the immortal state." The old man accepts his defeat wholeheartedly. He will reflect on his mistakes in seclusion for the rest of his life and no longer care about the affairs of Jianghu. Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan, and the others all had sorrowful expressions on their faces, as if they were a fox mourning the death of a rabbit. Huaqing Tian was known as the pillar of the Central Plains. He had been famous in Huaxia for decades. Now, he had lost to Lin Zhenyu. It was such a pity that he died in such a sad way. Although Great Grandmaster Hua lost to the old man, he is a man of his word. He is a man of his word. He has not lost the demeanor of a martial artist of our generation. Huaqing Tian nodded in satisfaction. Then, he looked at the heroes with a dignified gaze and said lightly, "Everyone should also keep their promises, right? The old man is going to be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. Do you accept it?" These words were said lightly, but in the ears of the crowd, it was like a clap of thunder. They were so shocked that they trembled all over. Their blood boiled in their chests, and they couldn't even stand steadily. Everyone looked at each other. They were still hesitating, but no one dared to make a sound of doubt. He killed Li Tuofeng, a great grandmaster on the divine list, with 1 strike in 1 palm. He suppressed Huaqing Tian with the weakest move of the Kuanpeng's 6 changes. Although they didn't agree with this person's character and identity, in terms of strength, who dared to not accept it? If the Hong family doesn't submit, no one can cure the fire poison in Hichu's body. We can't let the Hong family die out. In the crowd, Hong Junshin's expression kept changing. Finally, he smiled bitterly and said, "Elder Lin's strength is incredible. He is almost at the immortal realm. The Hong family in Yi province will submit to him. We will respect Elder Lin." He was the first to kneel on the ground. Hong Hichu and the other members of the Hong family were stunned for a moment, but they also knelt on the ground. "We submit." Zhang Wendao also led the members of the 5 tiger-breaking blades to kneel on the ground. They lowered their heads and submitted. "We submit. No one dares to disobey your orders." Then the Mo family in Lingnan, the Tang sect in Chuan, the Wang family in Luoyang, and many other martial artists knelt on the ground. On one hand, they were afraid of Huaqing Tian's power. If they dared to resist, they would be dead on the spot. On the other hand, they were controlled by him. Their disciples had been poisoned by the fire poison. Even if they wanted to fight, they were afraid of breaking the vases. Fear seemed to be contagious. Immediately, hundreds of martial artists, more than 200 iron body experts, and dozens of internal strength experts knelt down on the ground after a difficult mental struggle, cowering like quails. Guild Master Wei, Family Head Zhao, do you want to spar with the old man as well? Good, the old man is very pleased. In the end, only Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan and a few other transcendent grandmasters remained. Then get on the stage. Lin Zhenyu let out an explosive shout, his gaze shooting towards the crowd like a divine lightning snake. Everyone's heart raced. They were extremely uneasy and felt a sharp pain in their heads. Some of them even had blood oozing out of their ears. Words come out of the mouth and fire lightning from the eyes. It interferes with reality. He is almost at the immortal state. We submit. For a moment, Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan and the others were also frightened. Even if they were unwilling, they had to keep quiet and kneel on the ground. At this time, many martial artists and rich people in the secular world knelt on the ground. Only Tang Linglong was still standing there. She raised her chin high like a crane in a flock of chickens. She was very conspicuous. Xiao Tang, are you crazy? Kneel down. Zhao Yuankuan turned around and scolded. Although everyone looked submissive, in fact, many people were paying attention to Tang Linglong in the crowd. She relied on the power of Kong Teichu to fight with the heroes in the Hall of Brotherhood. She was so eloquent that many overlords were embarrassed. Seeing this scene, everyone sneered in their hearts. Tang Linglong, do you think you can look down on the world just because your master is Kong Teichu? Now Kong Teichu's enemy is here, and he is so powerful. You are doomed. Looking at the disdainful eyes of the crowd, Tang Linglong's pretty face showed boundless arrogance and she raised her chin higher. Lin Zhenyu also saw this scene, but he was not angry. Instead, he laughed and said with interest, "Little girl, it seems that you are the female disciple of Kong Teichu. Others are kneeling but you don't kneel? Aren't you afraid of me?" "Why should I be afraid of you?" Tang Linglong smiled lightly. Her face was as calm as an ancient scripture, and she said indifferently, "Your cultivation is not bad, but compared to my master, it is like comparing a straw dog to a lion. The gap is too big. I only worship heaven, earth, my parents and my master. Why should I kneel?" As soon as she said this, many people were stunned and their eyes almost fell to the ground. They could not believe it. Is this girl crazy? She is crazy, just like her master. She is too crazy. She has no idea how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. She must die. Many martial artists' faces were full of ridicule. Let her be. Now she has met someone who can suppress her. She and her master are the enemies of the world. It has nothing to do with us. Senior Lin, please punish her. There were also Zhang Mingli and other figures of the younger generation who were secretly gloating over her misfortune and quickly distancing themselves from her. Tang Linglong, don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and kneel down to Senior Lin and admit your mistake. His cultivation is heaven-defying, and he is very tolerant. He won't argue with a child like you. Wei Feilong scolded again. In fact, he did not want to see her die. "Ha, little girl, you are so brave. You are worthy of being Kong Teichu's disciple. Your courage is commendable." Lin Zhenyu laughed heartily and said coldly, "However, courage is courage. In this world, strength is everything. When I return to Wuxia, there are two people I must kill. One is Yi Zhantian, the god of war, and the other is your master, Kong Teichu." He slowly raised his dry red palm and hit Tang Linglong from afar. He said in a low voice, "Then, you go first. Be your master's companion on the road to the netherworld." A long flaming snake was about 10 meters long and as thick as a bucket. It directly rushed toward Tang Linglong. Moreover, the flaming snake was as fast as lightning. The distance of a mile was covered in a flash. The next moment, it arrived at the shore and rushed toward Tang Linglong. At this time, many martial artists' eyes were full of despair. They shook their heads helplessly and thought that no one could save her. "Lin Zhenyu, you are a martial arts master. Are you still a man to bully such a little girl? I, Kong Teichu, am here to kill you." At this time, a voice came. It was very low at first, but gradually it was like a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry. It was like a tiger's roar in the forest. It was like a rock soaring 90,000 miles in the sky. It was like a hurricane sweeping 10 kilometers. Chapter 189. The entire water manor trembled and the water surface within a few hundred meters of Poyang Lake began to ripple. The wind was so strong that many martial artists were thrown off their feet. A powerful sound wave blasted onto the fire serpent. The fire serpent writhed unwillingly before it finally shattered into pieces. Is this the power of Kong Teichu? Many of the cultivators present were so shocked that their faces turned pale. He must be at least of the transcendent state. Zhao Yuankuan and Wei Feilong exchanged a look and saw the disbelief on each other's faces. His breath was like a gust of wind and his voice was like a dragon's roar. How powerful must he be to be able to destroy Lin Zhenyu's fire serpent so easily? Many people had thought that Jiang Tian had defeated Mo Haoxiong and Hong Tianzhao by sheer luck. After all, it was rare to reach the transcendent state before the age of 30. How could he reach the transcendent state so easily? Many people even thought that Jiang Tian had reached the phenomenal state, but they had overestimated him. They believed that he was only at the initial transcendent state. But now, they discovered that they had actually seriously underestimated Jiang Tian's strength. They had simply failed to recognize Mount Tai. Kong Teichu, you really are something. You didn't disappoint the old man. Lin Zhenyu's voice rumbled like thunder as he looked at the sky above the water manor. In fact, he was shocked that Jiang Tian was able to destroy his fire serpent True Qi with only the dragon's roar. Jiang Tian's power was comparable to that of an immortal state warrior. How dare you attack my disciple? Today you will die. Suddenly, a 10-meter deep hole appeared on the water surface. The water was so deep that one could see the bottom. Many speedboats and boats swayed and fell into the raging waves. A white figure appeared with his hands behind his back. He landed on the water like a deity descending from the heavens. Kong Teichu, you are finally here. Good, the old man has been waiting for you for a long time. Lin Zhenyu took a step forward, creating fiery lotuses with each step. Like a demon from hell, he landed on the surface of the water 100 meters away from Jiang Tian. The fire lotus under his feet swallowed and spat continuously, scorching the lake water until it was boiling hot. Streams of white mist rolled and surged, making him look like an immortal. Lin Zhenyu, my disciple said that you're like a grass dog, and that's already praising you. Compared to me, you're just an ant. If you know what's good for you, break one of your arms and get out of Wuxia. I'll spare your life. The space beneath Jiang Tian's feet twisted and rippled like water. It was as if he was controlling the space with magic. Kong Teichu, you are indeed arrogant. Moreover, you do have the right to be arrogant. You are so young, but you are already at the peak of the transcendent state, much more powerful than Li Camelfeng and Huqing Tian. In the future, you will definitely achieve great things. Unfortunately, you met me in advance. Lin Zhenyu's face was filled with anger and malice. He ground his teeth and said viciously, the old man returned to Wuxia because he wanted to dominate the martial arts world. Now that I've met such a strong opponent, how could I miss this opportunity? I'll kill you and use you as a stepping stone for me to challenge Yi Zhantian. Yi Zhantian sneered. Kong Teichu is indeed at the peak of the transcendent state. Hearing Lin Zhenyu's judgment, a storm rose in everyone's hearts. He was less than 30 years old and had reached the peak of the transcendent state. He was even more powerful than the war god Yi Zhantian. It was unbelievable. It was as shocking as Mars crashing into Earth. We have underestimated him. Huqing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan, Wei Feilong and the other grandmasters were shocked. Their hearts were filled with a mixture of emotions and sadness. They thought about how many cultivation resources they had used to reach the transcendent state in their 40s and 50s. However, Jiang Tian had done it at such a young age. Kong Teichu was a living legend. Compared to him, they were so weak. Hong Junshan, Zhang Wendao, and the others who wanted to take revenge on Jiang Tian earlier felt their hair stand on end, and they felt extremely uneasy and terrified. The peak of the transcendent state has to reach the immortal state. Once a martial artist reaches the immortal state, he becomes an ant. This was a popular saying in the martial arts world. In other words, reaching the immortal state was a qualitative change in the process of martial arts cultivation. Once a martial artist reached the immortal state, he or she would be close to the level of a deity. No matter how powerful a martial artist was, he or she was just flesh and blood. How could they have the right to blaspheme a deity? They would be trampled to death like ants. If he dares to lower himself to our level, we will all die. As for Zhang Mingli, Zhao Hao, Hong Hichu and the others who had conflicts with Jiang Tian, they were so shocked and ashamed that they wished they could find a hole to hide in. Master is so powerful. Tang Linglong's face was filled with admiration as she looked at the peerless figure on the water surface. However, Jiang Tian, who was facing Lin Zhenyu, did not care about these discussions at all. His expression was calm. Lin Zhenyu, you think too highly of yourself. Who do you think you are? You want to use me as a stepping stone? Jiang Tian sneered and his eyes were full of contempt. Finally, he made his first attack. Take this. Boom. A translucent true essence fist the size of a round table was pushed out horizontally. Wherever the giant fist passed, 2 white waves a few meters high were plowed on the surface of the lake. The huge waves were pushed to both sides like overturned soil, and the entire lake was agitated. What a powerful punch! I, Lin Zhenyu, am willing to respect you as the most powerful martial artist in the mainland. Lin Zhenyu's face was full of admiration. Then fire poison true qi shot out from all the pores on his body and his sleeves fluttered. Streaks of red poisonous fire genuine qi rose to the sky. They were as hot as magma and boiled the lake water. Fish and shrimps floated on the surface of the lake. The violent and abundant flame genuine qi reached up to 10 meters high, as if a red cliff had emerged from the water surface. Lin Zhenyu's eyes were filled with coldness as he stared at Jiang Tian. He waved his hands and punched violently. Kun Peng's 6 variants, second variant. Flood Dragon variant. Boom. Crack. The poisonous fire genuine qi changed and formed a translucent flood dragon with the power of heaven and earth. It roared angrily, shook its head and wagged its tail, stirring up a pool of wind and rain and steaming white fog. It rushed towards Jiang Tian's giant fist. When the giant fist and the flood dragon collided, an earth-shattering explosion rang out on the surface of the lake, setting off huge waves that were a few meters tall. The raging waves crashed against the shore, directly drowning half of the manor. Countless fish and crabs at the bottom of the lake were blown up and fell on the shore. They were all steamed by the high temperature. Is this still the power of a human? Who is the stronger one? Countless people looked back at the lake in horror as they fled to higher ground, their hearts palpitating in fear. When the fog dissipated, people found that Jiang Tian was still standing there. Lin Zhenyu had retreated more than 10 meters, and there were specks of blood on his chest. Kong Teichu has gained the upper hand. Many people were dumbfounded and couldn't believe what they had seen. However, what surprised them even more was what happened next. Lin Zhenyu, you can withstand one of my punches. That's impressive. But now I will kill you in 3 moves. Jiang Tian's calm voice echoed across the lake. It was powerful and full of confidence. Everyone was dumbfounded by his words. They couldn't believe it. Even though Jiang Tian was at the peak of the transcendent state and was more powerful than Lin Zhenyu, it wouldn't be that easy for him to win. Transcendent grandmasters were all physically strong, invulnerable to all spells and indestructible by fire and water. Therefore, a battle between grandmasters would usually last for a long time. It would be difficult to determine the winner even if they fought for days and nights. For example, 20 years ago, the battle between Yi Zhantian and Xiao Bin, the old grandmaster from the northeast, on the heaven lake of the Whitehead Mountain lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The battle between Yi Zhantian and Lin Zhenyu also lasted for half a day. However, Kong Teichu was a bit too arrogant. Very well, Kong Teichu, you are as arrogant as a dragon. What a surprise. Martial artists of my generation should have this kind of bearing and self-confidence that looks down on everything under the heavens. Lin Zhenyu had suffered a small loss and was criticized by Jiang Tian. However, he was not angry. Instead, he was overjoyed. His battle intent surged like a tidal wave. After that, he struck out over a dozen punches in succession. This time, he wasn't as ferocious and overbearing as before. Instead, he was simple and majestic, filled with the aura of time. He was like an ancient immortal who had developed a fist technique. At times, he was like an old tree with its roots, at times, he was like a fish swimming in shallow water, and at times, he was like an eagle soaring into the sky. Kun Peng's 6 variants, change of wind and thunder. He tried his best. 2 streams of fire poison true qi surged like wind and thunder, stirring up the wind and the rain. They circled behind Jiang Tian and swept toward him. Kun Peng's 6 variants, change of mountain and sea. He continued to use all of his power. His face was red, veins were bulging on his forehead, and his hair was flying in the air. His battle intent was surging like a boiling sea. He hugged the void with both hands, then pushed them forward and smashed them down. A stream of fire poison true qi as heavy as a mountain broke through the air. It was as if Gonggong had hit Mount Buzhou. It crushed the surface of the lake and created a huge pit with a radius of 10 meters. Kun Peng's 6 variants, change of sun and moon. His red sleeves fluttered wildly as he tried to use all of his power to kill his opponent. In the end, he let out a hoarse roar. The transformation of sun and moon was his masterpiece. The void above the lake shook and blurred. A cloud of fire poison true qi lit up the sky like a rising sun. A cloud of fire poison true qi condensed into a bright moon, emitting rays of clear light. It suppressed Jiang Tian. At this moment, everyone present saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. On the calm lake, a giant sun and a moon appeared at the same time. The sun and the moon appeared at the same time, and the tide was surging. Ha Kong Teichu, I thought that after knowing the truth of the divine realm, only Yi Zhantian could keep pace with me in Huaxia. I didn't expect that a junior like you would appear and be on par with me. This is really the happiest thing in my life. After using the strongest 3 transformations, Lin Zhenyu stood proudly on the head of the tide and laughed. Kong Teichu, it's a pity that you're still a little bit weaker. I've absorbed the fire poison true qi for 20 years. Coupled with the Kun Peng's 6 transformations, I'm so powerful that I can even kill someone who is half a step away from the divine realm. The Kun Peng's 6 transformations was originally an extremely powerful skill. Moreover, Lin Zhenyu sat at the mouth of the volcano and spent 20 years absorbing the fire poison true qi of thousands of degrees to further strengthen it. It could be said that he was full of confidence. His current strength was comparable to the divine realm, which was more than enough to defeat Yi Zhantian 20 years ago. Too powerful. When Lin Zhenyu began to use the strongest 3 transformations of Kun Peng, everyone was stunned and shocked. They felt that he was no longer a human being, but a god who could control the clouds and the rain with one hand. The water in Poyang Lake was stirred up by him, and the water vapor was rising. Chapter 190. Alas, Lin Zhenyu's use of true qi has reached the point of perfection. He can summon wind and thunder with a wave of his sleeves, toss mountains and fill the sea with a wave of his hand, and summon the sun and the moon together. If I were to face him, I'm afraid I would die on the spot. Zhao Yuankuan's eyes were filled with fear as if he had seen a ghost. Many martial arts masters who were watching the battle all nodded in agreement. Those who had reached the transcendent state or half-step to the transcendent state felt the most keenly. It was extremely difficult to condense qi, but someone like Lin Zhenyu, who could use true qi freely and create such a myriad of phenomena, was many levels higher than them. The younger generation of martial artists, on the other hand, were sweating profusely and feeling dizzy. They only felt that everything in front of them had exceeded their imagination of martial arts. That Kong Teichu is also not bad. The sound wave attack broke the fire poison snake, and his punch was invincible and pushed in all directions. I'm afraid that ordinary grandmasters would have to retreat in front of him. Wei Feilong sighed deeply. He now understood that Jiang Tian had relied on his own strength to kill Imo Haoxiong and Hong Tianzhao, the two martial Dao masters. It was not a fluke or some kind of scheme. Brother Feilong is right. Huaqing Tian, who had returned to his seat, nodded, but there was a trace of a bitter smile on his face. Kong Teichu could reach the peak of the transcendent state before the age of 30, which can be said to be a cultivation genius that appears once in 100 years. Unfortunately, although his cultivation is on par with Lin Zhenyu, his cultivation method is always a little inferior. This is the fire poison true qi. At this time, he had already felt the horror of the fire poison. It was like a fire snake drilling in his meridians and acupoints. The pain was unbearable, as if he was in the furnace of purgatory. And even with the surging true qi of the transcendent state, he could not suppress it at all. As soon as these words came out, it was like a hammer hitting the nail on the head. Everyone was speechless. They had always wanted Jiang Tian to die. But at this moment, there was a strong sense of regret and unwillingness in everyone's hearts. In fact, Lin Zhenyu was the one who truly ran amok. 20 years ago, he invaded Wuxia and continuously challenged schools. He was invincible, and the number of famous martial artists he killed was at least 80 if not 100. Come to think of it, Kong Teichu had never taken the initiative to provoke anyone. There was a reason for all the killings. Compared to Lin Zhenyu, he was simply too kind. But such a talented young grandmaster, had he died just like that? Sigh, what a pity. If we wait another 10 years, he will definitely be able to suppress Lin Zhenyu. Zhao Yuankuan also shook his head and smiled bitterly. Many cultivators felt their hearts sink. Such a martial arts prodigy that hadn't appeared for 100 years, was he going to end up in such a miserable way? The old man doesn't want to watch anymore. Wei Feilong smiled bitterly and shook his head. He stood up and prepared to leave. Zhang Mingli, Zhao Hao, and the others all shook their heads and sighed. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. Soon, the Kunpeng's strongest 3 transformations attacked Jiang Tian almost at the same time. The wind and thunder transformation rushed left and right, the mountain and sea transformation smashed down from the sky, and the sun and moon transformation rampaged. The strongest 3 transformations completely enveloped Jiang Tian. Everyone could only see a tragic flame and white smoke rising. They couldn't see Jiang Tian clearly. It seemed that Jiang Tian would be smashed into meat paste and burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. Unexpectedly at this time, a voice full of contempt came from the depths of the flame. Lin Zhenyu, is this all you've got? That really disappoints me. Everyone looked over in horror. They saw a white azure dragon, more than 10 meters long, like jade or crystal, being evolved by Jiang Tian. Today, I have the azure dragon in my hand. I can swallow the sun and moon. Following Jiang Tian's low shout, the azure dragon suddenly rose into the air, opened its bloody mouth, and suddenly inhaled. The white jade dragon swallowed the flames, which were hot enough to incinerate gold and boil iron, without leaving a single drop behind. The high-temperature true qi was swallowed by the white azure dragon like rivers flowing into the sea, as if it was a sweet drink for it. Under everyone's horrified gaze, the azure dragon circled around Jiang Tian's back for a while and then retreated into his body. Jiang Tian took a step forward lazily and said with a smile, "Come on, Lin Zhenyu, spray some more fire for my little dragon to feed." Lin Zhenyu was very powerful. His spirit, body, and true qi had all reached the peak of the transcendent state. He could even use and control the qi of heaven and earth, which was enough to rival an early-stage qi refinement cultivator. His Kunpeng's 3 transformations was powerful enough to crush an armored vehicle and burn a 1,000-pound rock into ashes. Even a peak-stage transcendent grandmaster would die in a second if he were to be caught in the blast. Unfortunately, his opponent was Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, who had returned after 10,000 years of cultivation and was well-versed in everything. Jiang Tian had formed the Azure Dragon True Essence with the Azure Dragon art of the Cloud Sea, but he had just used the Great Sun Furnace of the Fiend art of the Sky Swallowing art. The fiend art of the sky-swallowing art was created by Jiang Tian's old friend in the Fiend Sea Star region, Ice Demon Emperor, and was extremely powerful. Ice Demon Emperor used to be indifferent and aloof from worldly affairs, but his partner betrayed him and robbed him of his Dharma treasure. After that, his temperament changed drastically. He became cruel, greedy, bloodthirsty, and violent. He pondered for 300 years and found the truth of the universe, and created the fiend art of the sky-swallowing art. His art was not like the ordinary cultivators who absorbed the spirit chi of heaven and earth to increase their power. Instead, it absorbed the essence of others and turned it into his own power, which was very cruel and tricky. Imagine, no matter how powerful you were, how could you fight back when your opponent swallowed all the Dharma chi and turned it into his own power? It could be said that the stronger you were, the more you would be at a disadvantage. Therefore, for thousands of years, Ice Demon Emperor kept on saying, "Life is really lonely like snow. It's too cold at the top. I beg you to fight with me." He burned, killed, and looted everywhere. He swept through several continents and planets and dominated a star region. Many virtuous paragons and immortal venerables were defeated and fled for their lives. It could be said that wherever he went, not a single hair was left behind. This person's reputation was as bad as Kong Teichu's, heaven-swallowing great demon king, #1 bandit in the universe, born in the Pishio, only eating and not pulling. Anyway, none of them were pleasant to hear. In the past, Jiang Tian came to the Fiend Sea continent and fought with Ice Demon Emperor for 3 years. They were evenly matched and directly destroyed half of the continent. In the end, they appreciated each other and shared the same bad habits. They shook hands and called each other brothers. Jiang Tian taught him the primal chaos art to help him refine many contradictory auras. Ice Demon Emperor also returned the favor and taught Jiang Tian the heaven-swallowing demonic art. Let me tell you, if you learn my technique, your life will be as lonely as snow. At that time, Ice Demon Emperor patted Jiang Tian's shoulder and winked at him with a smile. After Jiang Tian comprehended it, he also felt that this technique was too sinister and went against the laws of nature. Under normal circumstances, he would not use it. However, just now when he was surrounded by danger, Jiang Tian did not care so much and directly merged the great sun furnace of the heaven-swallowing demonic art with the Azure Cloud Dragon technique. This was equivalent to using the Azure Cloud Dragon as the body and the great sun furnace as the use, which could smelt all true chi. Even if Lin Zhenyu painstakingly cultivated for another 100 years, in the end, he would only be a mere magma fire poison. How could he withstand the devouring of 2 immortal emperor-level techniques? This is impossible. Seeing this, Lin Zhenyu's face changed dramatically, and his face was full of disbelief. He had sat on the magma fire for 20 years, absorbing the endless fire poison to form a scorching aura. He thought that even Yi Zhantian would have to retreat if he encountered it, but now it was swallowed by Jiang Tian. What kind of demonic art was Kong Teichu practicing? He was like a demon god. Not only him, but all the spectators were amazed. Huaqing Tian, Wei Feilong, Zhao Yuankuan, and other strong people of the present age, their eyeballs almost fell out. Run immediately. I'm afraid it will take another 30 years of hard work. Lin Zhenyu was indeed a grandmaster from overseas. He had rich experience in actual combat. If he missed a blow, he would escape thousands of miles away. He madly stomped his feet, as if he was stepping on wind and fire wheels, and dashed wildly into the distance. He used all his cultivation to run, and was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he had run hundreds of meters away. Look at how fast you run. Do you think you are Lu Xiang? Jiang Tian spat. He spat into his palms, rubbed his hands, and then under the disbelieving gaze of the crowd, he took off his shoes. Then, Jiang Tian raised his hand and threw the shoes out. Fuck! Is this a silent insult and contempt? Many martial artists were speechless and speechless. A duel between grandmasters was like a duel between immortals and immortals. How magnificent it was! But now, he was actually using his shoe to hit people like a foolish woman in a village brawl. Dare I ask, can you be any more wretched? But when the shoes were thrown out, everyone was shocked. Bush, bush. There was a sharp sound in the air. On the boundless lake, a white turbulence was dragged out by the shoes. That scene was like a fighter jet breaking the sound barrier and spewing out a long fan-shaped exhaust. Lin Zhenyu was very fast, but compared to Jiang Tian's shoes, he was too slow. He heard the faint sound of wind and thunder behind him, and a strong aura was coming at him. He cursed inwardly and turned around, activating all his true qi. He closed his arms and tried to block the attack. However, Jiang Tian's shoe was too powerful. His protective aura was shattered like a piece of paper, and the shoe landed heavily on Jiang Tian's chest like a rocket. "It's a shoe," Lin Zhenyu spat out his last words, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Then he spat out a mist of blood. He had survived in the volcano for 20 years, and his tall body could withstand bullets. At this moment, a large part of his sternum was caved in by the shoes. Then his true qi rushed out uncontrollably, causing his surging body to explode, turning into countless pieces of flesh and blood that fell into the lake. Boom! A shocking sound was heard. Jiang Tian's attack had broken the sound barrier. Lin Zhenyu is dead? After a long time, Wei Feilong came back to life as if his soul had returned to his body. Lin Zhenyu is dead. Zhao Yuankuan's face was very solemn, and his eyes were full of horror. He slowly nodded. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on the figure in white in the center of the lake. Their eyes were full of respect and fear, as if they had seen an immortal or a demon. They knew that today, a star had fallen, but a new star was slowly rising. Azure Dragon swallows the sun and moon, killing a grandmaster in 3 moves. Today's wind and clouds, who will shout? When my flowers bloom, 100 flowers will be killed. After today, the name Kong Teichu will be known throughout Huaxia. Huaqing Tian stood up, his eyes shining, and finally made the final judgment. He was the strongest powerhouse in the field, second on the divine list. His words had already set the stage for this battle. December 31, 2007. Kong Teichu killed Lin Zhenyu, the top grandmaster overseas, the leader of the Great Circle, on Poyang Lake. This battle shocked the world. Chapter 191. Everyone was shocked and dead silent. Everyone stood there motionless as if their souls had been sucked out. Some of their mouths were wide open, some of their eyes almost popped out, and some of their faces were trembling in fear. He was smashed to death by Kong Teichu with a shoe. Wei Feilong didn't think this sentence was funny. Instead, he was shocked and couldn't believe it. His tone was also as if he was talking to a ghost. Everyone's emotions were extremely complicated. 5 months ago, Jiang Tian killed the Grandmaster Hong Tianzhao on Mount Kiara and became a Grandmaster ranked 20th on the divine roll. They didn't believe it at all. More than 4 months ago, Jiang Tian killed Wei Shuofeng and Mo Haoxiong in Jiangnan. They thought it was all a fluke. Many people guessed that Jiang Tian's cultivation was only at the initial stage of the transcendent state or even half a step away from the transcendent state. Some hot-blooded young martial artists even wanted to kill Jiang Tian and use him as a stepping stone to become famous. The Mo family, the Hong family, and the Zhang family who had a grudge against Jiang Tian wanted to kill Jiang Tian. But now, the powerful Lin Zhenyu was killed by Jiang Tian in 2 moves, which made everyone give up on these thoughts. It could be said that no one below the transcendent state could withstand 2 moves from Jiang Tian. Even those famous grandmasters and immortal masters didn't dare to disrespect Jiang Tian in the slightest. They had to treat him with respect and treat him like a disciple. How dare a dog like you try to kill my disciple? You really don't know what's good for you. Jiang Tian walked on the water with his hands behind his back as if he was taking a stroll and slowly walked to the shore. Damn it, I really should cut him into pieces. His face was full of anger and viciousness. He was extremely protective of his disciple, unlike the other grandmasters who were aloof and didn't care about the secular world. However, everyone had seen his divine power and no one dared to disrespect him. Master Kong, thank you for your hard work. Have a cup of water. Zhao Yuankuan respectfully offered a cup of fragrant tea. Master Kong, thank you for getting rid of a scourge for Hua Xia's martial arts. Please take a seat. Wei Feilong respectfully bowed and cupped his fists. With a smile on his face, he personally handed a chair to Jiang Tian. Hee, what's so hard about it? It's just killing an ant. Jiang Tian sat down boldly, picked up the tea, and took a sip in satisfaction as he said with a chuckle. Everyone was dumbfounded. He dared to ask the former president of the Martial Arts Association, Wei Feilong, to move his chair, and the Grandmaster of Gan Province, Zhao Yuankuan, to serve him tea. What kind of glory and power was this? What was even more shocking was yet to come. Master Kong, I lost my shoes. Where mine? Qingtian actually took off his shoes and squatted down barefooted with a smile on his face. Like a servant serving his master, he wanted to help Jiang Tian put on his shoes. Jiang Tian shrunk his feet back as if he was avoiding a snake or a scorpion. Everyone thought he was going to be polite, but to their surprise he asked fearfully, Old Hua, you don't have athlete's foot, do you? Old man, absolutely not. Master Kong, don't worry. Qingtian was speechless, but he wasn't angry at all. He patted his chest and promised as he helped Jiang Tian put on his shoes. Seeing this scene, everyone was in a predicament. Jiang Taichu was so glorious and domineering that the three grandmasters had to serve him tea, move chairs, and hold his boots as if they were meeting their master. After today, who else would be able to stop this invincible young grandmaster? For a moment, a name popped up in everyone's mind. Yi Zhantian. After Yi Zhantian had defeated all the martial artists in the world, he had also been in seclusion for 10 years. He was now at the peak of the transcendent state, or even half a step away from the immortal state. If he were to fight with Kong Taichu, what would happen? After drinking a cup of tea, Wei Feilong, Qingtian, and Zhao Yuankuan begged Jiang Tian to come to the Hall of Brotherhood. Jiang Tian gladly agreed and stood up. Who is that Master Kong? Why does he look so familiar? Meng Yao was a few kilometers away from Jiang Tian. She was just an ordinary person and couldn't see clearly from 100 meters away. She couldn't help but ask curiously. Right, didn't Zhao Yuankuan call Jiang Tian Master Kong? Could it be Jiang Tian? Tang Bao said excitedly. How is that possible? That Master Kong just now wasn't human, he was like a god. Meng Yao shook her head in disbelief. It was normal for her to have such thoughts. It was like if you had a neighbor who played games and ate instant noodles in an internet cafe every day, or a delivery man you met on the street. If he said he was Superman or Spider-Man, would you believe him? Yeah, he really is like a god. I admire him so much. Tang Bao had completely turned into Master Kang's little fangirl, but she was also a little disappointed. The distance was too far. She could only look at it but not touch it. It was the same for Meng Yao as well. She was also very disappointed. Compared to Master Kong, Xia Miao and the other young masters of Jinling were like trash. Suddenly, Tang Bao jumped up and pointed at Jiang Tian in the crowd. He seems to be looking over here. Oh my god, he seems to be smiling at us. Yi Feng, on the other hand, was so scared that his body froze. Cold sweat poured down his forehead, and he almost fell to the ground. Actually, Jiang Tian had changed his appearance slightly when he attacked. But as an assassin, Yi Feng could accurately determine a person's identity through their expression, voice, habits, and posture. He was sure that Master Kong was Jiang Tian. This was a master who could overturn rivers and seas and kill grandmasters. What if he was unhappy and killed him on the spot? Could it be him? On the side, Lin Manong suddenly stood on his tiptoes and adjusted his glasses, whispering, "Why does he look so much like him?" He even made a phone call gesture to me. Jiang Tian only smiled at Lin Manong and walked into the moon gate under the crowd's escort, heading towards the Hall of Brotherhood. Why is Big Brother Yi Feng gone? At this moment, Tang Bao realized that Yi Feng had sneaked away and immediately shouted anxiously. Many practitioners were gathered in the Hall of Brotherhood. However, it was different from when Jiang Tian was sitting in the lower part of the hall and being interrogated by the practitioners. Now, Jiang Tian was sitting in the upper part of the hall. Even Wei Feilong and Huqing Tian were accompanying him. Many practitioners were worshipping him as if he was a god. They respected and feared him at the same time. After a round of compliments and flattery that Jiang Tian didn't find interesting, Hong Junshan suddenly stood up and cupped his fist with a smile. Master Kong, your killing of Lin Zhenyu can be said to be a great contribution to the world of martial arts. We are truly grateful. But now that Lin Zhenyu is dead, how can my useless grandson's fire poison be treated? That's right, Master Kong, Ming Li is also injured. Zhang Wendao said with a bitter expression. Many practitioners were troubled by this problem. According to Lin Zhenyu, only he could cure the fire poison. Now that he was dead, wouldn't it be a disaster? What's so difficult about that? I have a pill that can cure all poisons. Jiang Tian crossed his legs and sipped his tea in satisfaction. He waved his hand and said, exquisite pill. In fact, with Jiang Tian's personality, these people had once wanted to kill him. What did their lives have to do with him? However, he needed to find the D maiden flower for Qingya and needed the help of many practitioners. He had no choice but to put on a friendly front. When everyone heard this, they were overjoyed. They immediately took the pill and sat down cross-legged to meditate according to Jiang Tian's instructions, circulating their inner qi. Only a quarter of an hour passed. Huqingnan stood up and said in a trembling voice, how strange, why does the fire poison seem to have disappeared? No, it should be said that it has merged with my qi and made me stronger. This is called the Dragon Transformation Pill. It can refine foreign qi into one's qi. Jiang Tian sipped his tea and said calmly with a smile. It's so magical. Heavens, Grandmaster Jiang actually has such a miraculous medicinal pill? You've really made us concede defeat. Everyone present exclaimed in shock. They couldn't believe it. These pills were all refined by my master himself. He can have as many as he wants. Tang Linglong said proudly. Hearing this, the crowd's gaze on Jiang Tian became even more fervent. Some cultivators exclaimed, that's right, I heard that Grandmaster Jiang is also quite knowledgeable in alchemy and sorcery. His ability is extraordinary. No wonder the Shenong school knelt down and bowed to him. It's rumored that it's because of his powerful alchemy skills. Today, I see that it's true. Hong Junshan murmured with a complicated expression. Huqingtian's cultivation was the highest, so he refined the pill the fastest. However, after half an hour, the others also stood up one after another. The burning sensation had disappeared, and their qi was of varying degrees. Everyone had mixed feelings, especially Zhang Wendao, Hong Junshan, and the others who had a grudge against Jiang Tian. Originally, they blamed Jiang Tian for pestering endlessly and felt a little guilty. Now, Jiang Tian killed people and saved people with his own hands, showing his superb cultivation and superb medical skills. However, they could no longer hate Jiang Tian. Suddenly, Hong Junshan sighed, stood up, and saluted with a fist and palm salute. Master Kong, my son died in your hands. He deserved it. From now on, the grudge between the Hong family and Master Kong is over. Zhang Wendao stood up and said with a look of reverence, Grandmaster Jiang is so righteous that he disregarded the former enmity and saved my daughter. Our Zhang family is deeply grateful and will remember this in our hearts. We are willing to worship Grandmaster Jiang and listen to your orders. In fact, even if Jiang Tian didn't save them, they were afraid of Jiang Tian's power. They were afraid that Jiang Tian would take revenge and kill them with a snap of his fingers. Now that Jiang Tian saved them, it gave them a way out. For a time, many martial artists stood up and bowed to Jiang Tian with a fist and palm salute. Their expressions were either humble and respectful, or heroic. They all expressed their gratitude and wanted to bury the hatchet with Jiang Tian. In this regard, Jiang Tian was also happy to see it happen and nodded happily. As the saying goes, one should not be afraid of thieves stealing, but one should be afraid of thieves remembering. Although he tried his best to hide his connection with the secular world, if one really investigated carefully, it would be clear. Jiang Tian was naturally not afraid of these martial artists, but many of his family and friends were after all just mortals without any cultivation. If these enemies were to make a move on them, it would be quite annoying for him. At this time, Zhao Hao suddenly walked to Zhao Yuankuan's ear and whispered a few words. Zhao Yuankuan's face was filled with ecstasy and disbelief. It turned out that his son, Zhao Hao, had been stuck at his current cultivation and could not make any progress. However, after Jiang Tian hit him, he opened up his meridians and had just successfully broken through a layer. It seems that this old man is really kind-hearted. On the surface, he was punishing Zhao Hao, but in fact, he took the opportunity to open up his meridians. This martial arts, this medical skill, and especially this breadth of mind. Zhao Yuankuan was so excited that his whole body trembled. At this moment, his admiration for Jiang Tian could no longer be described with words. Seeing Jiang Tian being surrounded and worshipped by so many martial artists like stars surrounding the moon, Huaqing Tian, Zhao Yuankuan, and Wei Feilong looked at each other and discussed in low voices. Suddenly, Huaqingnan stood up and scanned the crowd. Master Kong, the Azure Dragon swallows the sun and moon, defeated Lin Zhenyu in 3 moves. His cultivation is far higher than ours. I propose that from now on, Master Kong will be the president of the Martial Arts Alliance. What do you all think? Chapter 192. I second the motion. If Master Kong becomes the chairman, I'm completely convinced. Zhao Yuankuan was the first to stand up. I agree. If Master Kong can't become the chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance, who else can? Wei Feilong also agreed. I agree. I agree. I'm willing to follow Master Kong to revitalize the martial arts in Wuxia and protect the justice and order of the martial arts world. Master Kong abhors evil and is as strong as a dragon. If he becomes the chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance, he'll definitely open up a new era. With a veteran grandmaster taking the lead, many martial arts experts stood up and expressed their support. Their faces were full of admiration. Their blood was boiling, and they were impassioned. They were like a group of warriors who were eager to fight and follow Jiang Tian to fight for the world. Everyone thought that Kong Taichu was too strong. He had even killed the leader of the Big Circle, Lin Zhenyu. They thought that if he became the chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance, the world would be peaceful and no evil martial artists would dare to cause trouble. Moreover, if Jiang Tian took control of the Martial Arts Alliance, he would be a great deterrent to the foreign forces. No one would dare to invade Wuxia. Oh my God, the 25-year-old chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance is leading the heroes of the world. Zhang Mingli's beautiful eyes sparkled. She looked at the scene in front of her in disbelief. She thought about how Jiang Tian seemed to be the target of public criticism a few days ago. She felt like she was in a dream. Sigh, if I could have 1/10 of his achievements in this life, I wouldn't have lived in vain. Hong Hichu, Zhao Hao, and the other martial artists of the younger generation no longer had any resentment or contempt toward Jiang Tian. They didn't even have the slightest desire to fight for supremacy. All they had was deep admiration, longing, and admiration. On the other hand, Tang Linglong, Qiu Gong, and Li Jinwei looked proud and happy. They were all Jiang Tian's followers. Now that Jiang Tian became the chairman of the Martial Arts Alliance, they felt honored. Faced with the eager gazes of the martial artists, Jiang Tian smiled faintly. To me, being the president of the Martial Arts Alliance is just an empty title and a burden. I have no interest in it. Everyone, please don't make things difficult for me. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Their faces were full of disbelief. In the eyes of the martial artists, the president of the Martial Arts Alliance held a high position, second only to the leader of the Long Formation, Yi Zhantian. Countless heroes of the world had racked their brains in order to ascend to this throne. But at this moment, many powerful martial artists were pushing for him to take the position, but he actually, flatly refused. Master Kong, you don't have to be so modest. We are all sincere. Huaqing Tian thought that Jiang Tian was just putting on an act. No, I'm not being courteous, I'm really not interested. Jiang Tian shook his head and said calmly, I'm really only here to find the crown princess flower for my beloved wife's cultivation. Beside him, Wei Feilong added with a smile, Mr. Jiang, the god of war, Yi Zhantian, also sent a congratulatory message just now. He congratulated you on killing Lin Zhenyu and getting rid of a potential threat for Hua Xia's martial arts. He also hopes that you can become the president of the Martial Arts Alliance and work side by side with him to achieve great things. What? Yi Zhantian mentioned it. To be able to work side by side with Yi Zhantian, how glorious and glorious is this? Many martial artists looked at Jiang Tian in shock, admiration, and envy. They felt that he was as unattainable as a lone peak, as unreachable as the North Star. Yi Zhantian can give me suggestions, but I can also choose not to listen. What right does he have to force me? Jiang Tian did not take it to heart. He stood up and said calmly, My words are the same. If you have any news about the crown princess flower, tell me immediately. I will reward you handsomely. Lingosti, let's go. Seeing him walk out with his hands behind his back, the crowd was stunned. They could not believe their eyes. He turned down the position of the president of the Martial Arts Alliance just like that. That was too easy. Kang Tichu, stop right there. Suddenly, a girl in martial attire stood up from the crowd and shouted loudly. Is that the leader of the Long Formation Group 1, Chao Jinjia? Yes, the best disciple of the Chao family, Yi Zhantian's personal disciple. She has achieved phenomenal success in her internal force cultivation. Someone recognized the girl and exclaimed. The gathering of the Martial Arts Alliance this time was organized by the Zhao family of Gan Province. However, the Long Formation was secretly supervising it. However, since the Martial Arts Alliance wanted to maintain its image as a civilian martial arts organization, Chao Jinjia did not want to be too high profile. She had been observing from the shadows. But now, she had no choice but to stand out. Kang Teichu rejected the position when Yi Zhantian mentioned him. In her eyes, it was an insult to the Long Formation. This was the humiliation of the Long Formation. It was also a slap to Yi Zhantian's face. As Yi Zhantian's disciple, she would never allow such a thing to happen. Well, Jiang Tian frowned. He was a little annoyed. What are you doing? Chao Jianjia's beautiful face was filled with anger. She took a step forward and said coldly, Do you know that there is a saying about the Long Formation? Those who join us are our friends. Those who don't join us are our enemies. Now, the Long Formation is trying to be friendly to you. How dare you reject it? Do you want to become the enemy of the Long Formation and all the martial artists in the world? She looked straight at Jiang Tian, took another step forward and said coldly, Jiang Taichu, you are indeed very powerful. However, may I ask if you can withstand the attack of a rocket launcher or a nuclear weapon? Even if you can escape to the ends of the earth, can your family and friends escape? She took a step forward and asked a few more questions. Soon, she was in the middle of the field and confronted Jiang Tian. She seemed to think that she had Jiang Tian in the bag. She took out her military mobile phone and opened a file. Your real name is Jiang Tian. You are from the Jiang family in Jinling. Your grandfather is Jiang Changgang. Your father is Jiang Zhixing. Your mother is Zhang Wanqing. She is the general manager of the Xixia pharmaceutical factory. Your lover. Speaking up to this point, her beautiful eyes flashed and she giggled, teasing him. I didn't expect your grandfather to be so powerful. He's from the Zhang family. Her smile, which had yet to fully blossom, came to an abrupt end. The smile on her beautiful face was completely covered by fear. Because a jade-white hand suddenly reached out and grabbed her neck like an iron clamp. Chao Jinjia was shocked. She felt that Jiang Tian's hand had grabbed her neck. Her qi and strength were rushing out of her body. She couldn't even muster up any strength. She had difficulty breathing and felt dizzy. She shouted with difficulty, Kang Teichu, how dare you kill me? So what if I kill you? Even if Yi Zhantian dares to talk to me like this, he will die. Jiang Tian's face was cold. There was no trace of emotion in his eyes. It was as if killing her was as easy as killing a chicken. Master Kong, calm down. Wei Failong was scared out of his wits. He hurried to persuade him. Master Kong, you can't kill Chao Jinjia. Zhao Yuankuan's face also changed. He was so scared that his whole body was trembling. Master Kong, calm down. Master Kong, don't be rash. For a moment, many martial artists were trying to persuade Jiang Tian. They were afraid that Jiang Tian would do something he couldn't handle. In fact, everyone knew that Chao Jinjia's words were too much. Grandmasters were like dragons. A trump card grandmaster like Jiang Tian, who was likely to discover the truth of the divine realm in his lifetime, was a supreme existence. Even if Yi Zhantian was here, he should treat him as an equal and treat him with respect. It could be said that if she was killed by Jiang Tian, she would only have herself to blame. But her identity was too sensitive. She was born in a top family of generals. If she was provoked, it would be a terrible disaster. It might even cause the government to suppress the martial arts world again like in the late 1990s. She couldn't be killed. Anyone who doesn't join your family is your enemy? How arrogant and domineering. Humph, I'd like to see what you can do to me after I've been your enemy for a long time. Jiang Tian's eyes glowed with a bloodthirsty light. His fingers tightened and the bones in Chao Jinjia's neck rubbed against each other. At this moment he was really angry. This long-time formation was too arrogant and domineering. It was even worse than when he was in the outer space. If I don't join you, you threaten my lover and family. Don't you know that this is Kong Teichu's reverse scale? Whoever touches it will die, including your long-time formation. At this time, Chao Jinjia's hands and feet were convulsing. She was really scared. Her face was full of horror and pain. Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and merciless. He was like a high and mighty god looking down at ants. His body exuded a monstrous blood aura. He was like a demon king who walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He was cold and merciless, carrying with him an indomitable and tragic aura that could destroy everything. It was extremely terrifying. All this told her that Jiang Tian really dared to kill her. This was not a bluff and he was not trying to scare her. You think you're very powerful, but in my eyes, it's just something I can destroy with a wave of my hand. Jiang Tian's cold voice sounded. In this world, no one can survive after threatening me. Remember, after you reincarnate, don't provoke me. I, Kong Teichu, am someone you can't afford to provoke. Chao Jinjia felt that her consciousness was about to fade. She looked at Hua Qingtian for help and said bitterly, Uncle Hua, save me. Master Kong, Jinjia is young and ignorant, but she has good intentions. Please give the old man some face and spare her this time. Hua Qingtian did not dare to fight Jiang Tian head-on. In a moment of desperation, he knelt on the ground and begged in a trembling voice. Master Kong, please forgive me. Why do you have to make things difficult for a child? Master Kong, she offended the heavens and deserves to die. But on account of the fact that we once worked together to resist the enemy, give this old man some face and spare her life. Master Kong, please let her go. We will report this to War God Yi and Old Man Chao and punish her. In the next moment, Wei Failong, Zhao Yuankuan and the other transcendent grandmasters all knelt on the ground and begged. The scene shocked everyone. Tai Chu's wrath had shocked the world. The 7 transcendent grandmasters all knelt and begged for mercy. Since this is your first offense, I will spare you this time. Seeing this, Jiang Tian heaved a sigh and let go of Chao Jinjia. He then linked his hands behind his back and strode out. Bang! Chao Jinjia sat on the ground, greedily gasping for air. Her face was pale, and fear that she had never felt before flashed in her heart. Jiang Tian's expression was calm. Under the urging of many cultivators, he left the Poyang Water Manor without any reluctance. No one knew what was on his mind. Become stronger. He must become stronger. If he could pierce through the earth with his sword, no one in the world would dare to threaten him. Chao Jinjia could not wait to suck up to him. Today, Chao Jinjia's threat to Jiang Tian was a strong signal to him that he was not invincible. At least, his body was not strong enough to withstand the attack of a weapon of mass destruction. Chapter 193. Earth was the same as the cultivation world. The strong were respected and the weak were punished. Weakness was the original sin and could only be threatened and bullied. Jiang Tian wasn't afraid of the long formation. If he killed Xianxia, he might be able to escape unscathed, but what about his parents and Qinya? When Wei Shuofeng used the Tide Hark Mountain Qi, and when Lin Zhenyu used the Kuanpeng's 3 transformations, I felt my body weaken. Even if it didn't completely shatter, it was completely possible that I was injured. Sitting in the Mercedes-Benz on the way back, Jiang Tian squinted at the scenery outside the window and thought leisurely. This is because my body is just an ordinary body. Although it has been strengthened by cultivation arts, it is still just a mortal body after all. His face gradually became firm and there seemed to be a burning flame dancing and flickering in his eyes. The first thing I need to do now is to find materials to rebuild my body and activate many divine powers. When the time comes, I will be invincible and will be able to defeat thousands of soldiers and horses. I won't be afraid of modern weapons of mass destruction or even nuclear weapons. Second, I need to guide my family on the path of cultivation. Even if they can't become immortals or gods, they must at least be able to protect themselves. Thinking of this, he took out his phone and looked at the date and murmured, "Grandpa's birthday banquet is about to start. I need to return to Jinling. Maybe this is an opportunity." While Jiang Tian was still on the way back to Linzhou, the news that Kang Teichu had killed Lin Zhenyu, the leader of the overseas grandmasters, swept across the entire Wuxia martial arts world and the upper-class society like a super typhoon. Even if Jiang Tian had killed Hong Tianzhao of Yi Province, Mo Haoxiong of Lingnan and Wei Shuofeng of Lingnan, his reputation was still limited to southern Wuxia. But Lin Zhenyu was different. He was the pillar of the Big Circle, the #1 overseas society. He was famous in the entire Chinese world, but he was killed by a young grandmaster who was not even 30 years old. This was too shocking and unbelievable. Yanjin, Zhonghai, Yangcheng, Southeast Asia, the United States. Many families and forces were paying close attention to this news. A name that was earth-shattering and earth-shattering appeared out of nowhere, shocking everyone. Even many families in Japan, Europe, and Southeast Asia had heard of this almost invincible peerless powerhouse. In the northern suburbs of Beijing, on the aspiring throne peak of Mount Yen, the Long Formation encampment, an old man in his 60s with an extraordinary bearing was sitting cross-legged under an old tree. He was dressed in a long green robe. His body was surrounded by an aura, and his face was as calm as an old monk in meditation. However, his sword-like eyebrows were slanted to his temples, making him look very heroic. If there were any Wuxia martial artists here, they would definitely cry out in surprise and respect. He was the supreme existence of Wuxia's martial arts. War god, Yizhantian. Suddenly, a general walked in quickly and whispered into his ear. Yizhantian opened his deep eyes and stared at the south. He remained silent for a long time. No one knew what he was thinking. "Elder Yi, what should we do?" The general asked. "This person is neither good nor evil. It is difficult to distinguish between friend and foe. If we take a step forward, he will be a hero. If we take a step back, he will be a good general. Try to rope him in and keep a close eye on him." Yizhantian's eyes were deep and his face was solemn. He paused for a moment and added, "Pay more attention to him than Xiaobin and Lin Zhenyu. He will be listed as a special alert. Understand?" The general's entire body trembled, and a storm rose in his heart. "What does Elder Yi want to do?" Yizhantian narrowed his eyes and looked at the sky as if he wanted to see through the depths of the universe. He remained silent for a long time. "Elder Yi, do you have any other instructions about Kang Teichu?" the general asked in a deep voice. Yizhantian waved his hand and closed his eyes again. The yellow leaves slowly fell and the quaint little courtyard returned to its tranquility. After a long time, a confused and probing voice sounded. "Is he human?" Yunzhou, Five Tiger Village, saber ancestral land of the Five Tiger sect. These days, Zhang Qian had been recuperating and taking medicine to strengthen his body. He was recovering well. After performing a set of saber techniques, he was sweating all over. He felt that his understanding of martial arts had become more refined. He was satisfied and calm. Revenge is a dish best served cold. 10 years later, I will fight Kong Teichu again and avenge my humiliation. Zhang Qian sheathed his saber. His resolute face flashed with determination and his fighting spirit surged. Brother, father called us for a meeting about Kong Teichu. Zhang Mingli walked over quickly. He also participated in the Martial Arts Alliance conference? Could he have been beaten to death? That's too bad. Zhang Qian gritted his teeth and walked quickly into the meeting hall. It seems that we have seriously underestimated Kong Teichu's strength. I'm afraid he is only one step away from the immortal state. When Zhang Wendao finished talking about everything that had happened in the Martial Arts Alliance conference, many of the Zhang family's higher-ups were stunned. Everyone's face was ashen. Only a skinny old man sitting at the head of the table, the oldest grandmaster of the Five Tigers saber techniques, spoke. This battle was too shocking. Lin Zhenyu killed Li Tuofeng, suppressed Wuxia Tian, and was killed by Jiang Tian's Azure Dragon swallowing the sun and moon in 3 moves. They raised huge waves and condensed the Azure Dragon with fire. They displayed strength that was beyond the Grandmaster level. With his level of cultivation, I'm afraid even Yi Zhantian will have to be careful. I'm afraid I won't be able to catch up with him in my lifetime. Zhang Qian looked like he was laughing and crying. He let out a long sigh, his eyes filled with despair. Jiang Tian's Azure Dragon that could swallow the fire poison of the sun and moon obviously had spirituality. It should be the peak of martial arts, the Qi form. It might even be the truth of the immortal state. He might not be able to achieve this level of cultivation even if he worked hard for 3 lifetimes. How could he still think about revenge? Especially you, Qitian. You must understand that there is always someone better than you. Keep your arrogant and hot-tempered temper in the future. Zhang Wendao saw his son's uncertain expression and emphasized with a frown. I understand. Zhang Qian felt as if his soul had been sucked out. He was weak all over and his face was pale. When the enemy could still catch up with him, he would still think about revenge. But when the enemy was too strong and he could only look up to them, the hot blood of revenge would turn cold faster than a pile of cow dung in winter. The eyes of the great master flickered and his face was gloomy for a long time. At this time, he suddenly slammed the table and stood up. He said in a deep voice, Fine. The strong are easy to break. Kong Teichu is too strong. We can only avoid him. From now on, the Zhang family will avoid Kong Teichu to show our respect. Yes. Great master. Many people of the Zhang family bowed together with mixed feelings and responded in a deep voice. The Zhang family could only swallow their broken teeth and blood, suppressing their emotions in the deepest part of their hearts. Jiang Tian was invincible and even killed Lin Zhenyu in 2 moves. They could only hold their nose and swallow a pile of shit. He has become the first person after Yi Zhantian so quickly? In the hall, Zhang Lang, the frenzied blade, who was attending the meeting, was stunned. He couldn't believe it, as if he had fallen into a dream. A few months ago, in his eyes, Jiang Tian was just an ordinary grandmaster among the many grandmasters. Now he could be called the first grandmaster under the immortal state and was qualified to be on an equal footing with Yi Zhantian. At the same time, the Hua family of the Central Plains, the Hong family of the Yi province, the Zhao family of the Gan province, the Tang sect of the Central Shu province, the Golden Blade Wang family of Luoyang, and many other martial arts families were spreading the news and discussing countermeasures. But in the end, they decided to reach the same goal by different means. It's best if we can become friends with Kong Teichu. Even if we can't, we must never become enemies with Kong Teichu. At this point, Kong Teichu's name had spread throughout the martial arts world of Wuxia. He had become the first Grand Master on the divine list after one battle, famous all over the world. At this time, Jiang Tian had driven back to Linzhou and arrived at the King No. 1 villa. After all, home was the warmest place. It was like a small boat docked at the cozy harbor after a stormy sea. Jiang Tian walked into the courtyard. To his surprise, Elder Tang, the three sons of the Tang family, Yi Gufeng, Zheng Jiushuan, Dragon the Fifth, and Zhou Zhenghao were already waiting for him. Even Hong Yi and Su Wenjie of the Lingnan Sorcery Circle were there. It could be said that the place was full of distinguished guests. Master Kong. Congratulations to Grandmaster Jiang for returning with great honors. Seeing Jiang Tian return, everyone came out to greet him. They bowed to him with reverence and excitement. Why are you all here? Jiang Tian was surprised. He had kept a low profile when he arrived. Only Elder Tang and a few others knew about his arrival. He didn't expect so many people to be waiting for him. We are here to congratulate Master Kong. Elder Tang was so excited that he couldn't help but tremble. He said ecstatically, "Congratulations, Master Kong. You have won the Martial Arts Alliance Conference. This is going to be a great occasion." He had already received news that many military regions and military branches were trying to recruit Jiang Tian. Because of Jiang Tian's fame, the fact that he had once served as Zhan Long's martial arts consultant was valued even more by the higher-ups. Tang Hongtu, who had been recommended by Jiang Tian, had already gotten his wish of becoming a major general. Even the government officials were paying more attention to the Tang family. Tang Weimin had been transferred to Yangcheng City as the secretary of the municipal committee. Not to mention, Tang Linglong's power had skyrocketed. She could easily join the Battle Dragon organization or even the Long Formation. Everyone looked very excited. Jiang Tian had made a name for himself. No one would dare to mess with him in the future. In response, Jiang Tian shook his head and did not bother to say anything. He held Zhao Xueqing's hand and heaved a long sigh. "Qingya, I didn't find the D-daughter flower. It's good that you came back safely." Zhao Xueqing quickly wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and smiled. "We can take our time to find the D-daughter flower. We are not in a hurry." After everyone was seated, Tang Wanyan excitedly slapped his thigh and said, "Grandmaster Jiang, this is really a case of a man ascending to the heavens. As your lackeys, we are really honored." "You piece of trash. You have no culture at all. You are so vulgar and shameful." Elder Tang slammed the table angrily, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. Everyone burst into laughter. "Dad, you don't know the market," Tang Wanyan proudly said. After Grandmaster Jiang defeated Wei Shuofeng, I don't know how many people wanted to become Grandmaster Jiang's lackeys. That Tang Zhenye begged me many times, but I ignored him. Chapter 194. Old man, third elder is right. Zhou Zhenghao added, "Tang Shaozi has begged me many times. He wants to be a lackey, but he can't." Tang Wanyan slapped his thigh and smiled. Now that Grandmaster Jiang has killed Lin Zhenyu, how glorious and domineering is that? Naturally, there will be more people who want to be Grandmaster Jiang's dog. Everyone burst into laughter again. Firecrackers. Fireworks. Zhou Zhenghao and Tang Wanyan took out firecrackers and fireworks and set them off outside the door. They jumped up and down and cheered like two kids celebrating the Lunar New Year. Elder Tang shook his head and laughed bitterly when he saw this, and then he said seriously, "Grandmaster Jiang, this matter is of great significance and is no small matter. I think we should hold a hero's banquet and get along well with the figures of the martial world." Elder Tang had been involved in both the martial arts world and the military world. He took care of both the martial arts world and the national affairs. He knew that although Jiang Tian was famous, he had made many enemies. With Jiang Tian's wild and unrestrained personality, he would not care about these enemies. But as Grandmaster Jiang's subordinates, they had to be clear-minded and help Grandmaster Jiang resolve some conflicts. They should invite these people to have a drink together, call them brothers, and say a few polite words for Jiang Tian. That was the right thing to do. Forget it. However, Jiang Tian felt that there was no need for that. After all, he had given them a lot of elixirs to neutralize the fire poison, so the conflict was resolved. Master Kong, why don't we have a gathering? Don't worry, leave everything to the Tang family. We won't let you worry, Elder Tang said with a smile. It's my grandfather's birthday soon. I haven't been back for 3 years. This time, I have to go no matter what. Jiang Tian said with a trace of longing in his eyes. It was not 3 years, but 10,000 years. Jiang Tian was one of the Jiang family's third-generation disciples who was doted on the most by the old man. In his past life, Jiang Tian was kicked out of the family. He was very angry and did not even see the old man for the last time. It was said that when the old man was dying, he was still murmuring Jiang Tian's name on his sickbed. In the end, he shouted "Live up to expectations" 3 times before he died. It could be said that the old man died with hatred in his heart. He died with his eyes wide open. In this life, when I come back, I will make sure you live a long and healthy life without any regrets. Oh, filial piety is the most important of all virtues. We understand Master Kang's decision. Everyone hurriedly nodded and looked at each other. Their hearts were restless. Celebrating grandfather Jiang Changging's birthday? This was a rare opportunity to curry favor with Jiang Tian. In Chinatown, Las Vegas. The lights were dazzling, luxury cars were like rain, and gamblers were like clouds. The Lisboa Tower, which was more than 88 stories tall, pierced through the sky like a sharp arrow embedded with gems. It was one of the top 3 casinos in Las Vegas. It was famous for its large scale, luxurious facilities, good reputation, and beautiful dealers. It was a gambling den for the world's top gamblers. The daily turnover was tens of millions of dollars. However, only those who had a deep understanding of the underground world would know that this was the headquarters of the most famous overseas Chinese society, the Big Circle. A Marine One commercial helicopter circled to the top of the building and landed slowly. This helicopter was the same model as the presidential helicopter in the United States. It was a limited production by Sikorsky Aircraft and was priced at $40 million. It could carry 20 people and had luxurious facilities. Many tycoons wanted it. The door opened and a man in a tuxedo walked out slowly. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. It was impossible to tell his age. He was extremely handsome, elegant, and elegant. If people who paid attention to the fashion industry and the upper class saw him, they would definitely exclaim in surprise. He was the prince of a country in Western Europe. He owned a few luxury brands and was famous in the entertainment industry. But at this moment his aura was awe-inspiring. There seemed to be thunder and fire flashing in his eyes. There was a group of men and women behind him. They were all dressed like business elites. The men were all tall and had powerful auras. Their eyes were like lightning. The women were from different races, but they were all hot and charming. There were even 2 famous stars in Hollywood. The blonde man led them into the elevator on the top floor. Many guards in black lowered their heads to show their respect. The sun god Apollo has come to the headquarters. Looks like something big is going to happen this time. Many guards whispered to each other. Their faces became solemn. He had 2 identities. Not only was he the head of the European side of the Great Circle, but he was also one of the 12 main gods of the Western Arcana realm. He was the pillar of the European temple. In the outside world, he had always shown himself as a prince and secretly supported the Great Circle's operations in Europe. He rarely contacted the Great Circle in person. This time, he came in person, giving people a feeling that a storm was coming. I heard that the leaders of all the war zones are here this time. I just saw the black ape. It's really a piece of coal. One of the guards laughed. Shut up, Jack. You don't know that the black ape Carl hates it when people talk about his skin color. The leader of the guards gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. If he hears you, he will tear you apart and eat you alive. Jack thought of the black ape Carl's mountain-like body and felt a chill run down his spine. He shut his mouth obediently. Seeing Apollo's body disappear into the elevator, everyone was filled with suspicion and shock. So many big shots of the Great Circle had come together. This was a grand occasion that would not happen during the annual ancestral worship ceremony. What had happened? Apollo went down to the top floor and walked into a large conference room in the classic style of Wuxia. He saw that many big shots of the Great Circle had already arrived. "Prince William, you're late." Seeing Apollo arrive, an old man in a Tang suit sitting at the head of the table said unhappily, "Honorable Sixth Master Fan, you can't blame me. Other than working for the Great Circle, I also have to work for the temple. You know that vampires have appeared in London recently. I just fought with them." Apollo lazily sat down and picked up a Cuban cigar that was placed on the table. As he twirled his fingers, a flame ignited on his fingertips. He lit the cigar, took a light puff, and shrugged his shoulders. There were many powerful people in the conference room, but most of them were standing respectfully. Only 8 people were sitting, and among them were the 7 big shots of the Great Circle. These 7 big shots were each in charge of a region and controlled the underground forces of several countries. There were men and women among them, and they came from different regions and clans. However, each of them had a powerful aura. Some were as sharp as unsheathed swords, some were as heavy as Mount Tai, and some were as deep as the Great Swamp. They were either mutants or all kinds of strange cultivators. However, in terms of strength, they were no weaker than the martial arts masters of Wuxia. The Great Circle originated from the smuggling wave from the 50s to the 70s. It already had a long history of 70 years. Powerhouses gathered there, and experts were as common as trees in the forest. They were involved in illegal businesses such as arms, drugs, human trafficking, kidnapping, and casinos. They made money quickly and now controlled hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. Their assets were comparable to that of a small country. The Great Circle had already surpassed the Chinese. They had absorbed a lot of blood and many tycoons from all over the world had joined them. However, the person at the head of the table was 89 years old. He was thin and small, and his aura was waning. He only had a thumb on his right hand, and the remaining 4 fingers were bare. It seemed that he had been chopped off by some sharp weapon. It was obvious that he didn't have any cultivation. However, no one dared to show any disrespect to such an old and disabled person. Because he was the boss of the Great Circle, Sixth Master Fan. He was the one who had organized the major overseas Chinese gangs and created the Great Circle. In the United States, he could freely go in and out of Congress to lobby and drink with the speaker. He had a high status. When he first started out, his nickname was Fan Luji. But now that he was old, his seniority was high, and his status was respected. Everyone respectfully addressed him as Master Lu. "It's just a few vampires. They can't do anything. Don't mind them." Sixth Master Fan's face was as calm as an ancient well. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, "The change in Wuxia is the most important thing now. Lin Zhenyu has died in Wuxia." "What? Senior Lin is really dead?" A seductive woman with long golden hair, wearing a dress with a high slit, revealed her snow-white and voluptuous legs, giving off a seductive feeling. She covered her small red mouth and cried out in shock. A hint of greed and passion flashed in Apollo's eyes, but there was also a hint of fear. This woman's code name was the Mediterranean Golden Scorpion, also known as the Killer Beauty Scorpion. She was a metal mutant and was extremely fierce and powerful. Last year, an oil tycoon in the United Arab Emirates who controlled tens of billions of dollars of crude oil died in a heavily guarded seaside villa. Rumor had it that it was her doing. Yes, Lin Zhenyu has been killed by a martial arts master in Wuxia. Even his body was smashed to pieces on a big lake in Wuxia. Lin Zhenyu's successor and the person in charge of North America, Little Five, said. He was a handsome young man and Lin Zhenyu's most outstanding disciple. He had already reached the peak of internal force. This is unbelievable. Master Lin is the #1 martial arts master in the Great Circle, but he was killed. Golden Scorpion was shocked. Her eyes flashed with a strange metallic luster as if there was mercury flowing in them. It would take at least 5 or 6 grandmasters to kill Senior Lin Zhenyu. Which forces did it? Was it the Long Formation, the Martial Arts Alliance, the Singapore Chinese Association in Southeast Asia, or the military? A tall black man asked in a low voice. He sat on a chair like a mountain and his head almost touched the ceiling. His skin was covered in white paint that formed a strange pattern. There was a strange energy flowing through his skin. Apollo knew that he was called Black Ape Carl and was the person in charge of Africa. He had control over the arms trade, human trafficking, and diamond production in Africa. His annual profit for the Great Circle was over $10 billion. Apollo's eyes were filled with fear. He remembered that he was the descendant of an old African priest. He had the mysterious power of the earth and could withstand machine gun fire. Once, a warlord from a small country in Africa tried to assassinate him, but he overturned 3 tanks and fought his way out. It's not the Long Formation, the Martial Arts Alliance, or the Singapore Chinese Association in Southeast Asia. It's a new martial arts master in Wuxia. His name is Kong Taechu and he's not even 30 years old. Little Five's expression was extremely solemn as he reported the information he had gathered. Not even 30 years old? How is that possible? The grandmasters in Wuxia are all over 40 years old. Where did Kong Taechu come from? Everyone turned pale with fright when they heard this. Even Apollo looked as if he was facing a great enemy. Terrifying flames flowed out of his eyes. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.